Target is approaching the main exit. Rocco's voice crackled through their earpieces. He spoke with cold precision. Sal, Dante, you're on the car. Sal drives. Dante keeps a visual and calls out his position. Be ready for ground support. The rest of you, pair up. We boxed him in, one team in front, one behind. Force him into a dead zone with no cameras, then we take him out. Gunshot confirmed inside the club from Zura. Don't underestimate this guy. Rocco was taking no chances. He knew Leo Flynn had just taken down Leo the Bull Petrocelli, a man surrounded by armed muscle, in minutes. This wasn't some street brawl. Rocco's crew were all martial arts experts, operating in two-man teams, each armed. It was supposed to be a foolproof plan. As Leo Flynn stepped out of the midnight lounge, the cool night air was a welcome relief. It washed over his face, which he'd artfully arranged into a mask of feigned terror. Inside, he was electric. The thrill of revenge was a potent drug, a feeling of pure, unadulterated satisfaction. Now, all that remained was the complete financial destruction of New York's elite. He was the supreme Dragon King, the master of the Dragon's Den. He'd brought entire nations to heel, faced down global powers, and emerged either victorious or as an unbeatable equal. With that kind of power behind him, the idea that some useless silver spoon playboy like Asher Vance could defy him was laughable. He'd provoked him for the last time. Asher Vance had to die. The Vance fortune would be his. The most beautiful women in New York would be his. It was a cosmic waste for a degenerate like Asher to possess such things. He walked another block, and the hairs on the back of his neck prickled. A predatory, almost cruel smile touched his lips. Petrocelli's men aren't all useless after all. They're actually trying to tail me. Pathetic, he thought with contempt. Back when I was mastering the art of surveillance and counter-surveillance, you kids were still playing in sandbox. Leo kept his pace steady, his eyes subtly scanning the surrounding terrain, reading the reflections in shop windows, mapping out the urban landscape. First, he had to shake the two clowns behind him. He wasn't sure if they were the only ones. Rocco, I've got a bad feeling about this, Vinny muttered, walking beside him. You think he's made us? Rocco shook his head, his confidence unwavering. Impossible. We're half a block back. He'd have to be a master of counter-intel to spot us from this distance. The words were barely out of his mouth when Leo Flynn broke into a dead sprint. Rocco's face went slack. Not only had Leo spotted them, but he'd also somehow detected Marco and Joey, who were staged hundreds of feet ahead. He knew because Leo wasn't running toward them. He was veering off in a completely different direction. Humiliation burned in Rocco's cheeks. He, a former Army scout, a squad leader, had been made in the field by some glorified street fighter. It was a direct blow to his professional pride. It meant Flynn wasn't just good. He was leagues better. Damn it. Go. After him. Don't let him get away. Rocco roared, his face flushed with anger. The four of them gave chase. But Rocco hadn't lost his head completely. They had an ace up their sleeve. He quickly ordered Marco and Joey to split off, using the tracker's live feed from Sal to set up a new interception point. This time, there would be no stealth. They would move in for the kill. Leo glanced at the reflection in a car's side view mirror. He saw the four men chasing him suddenly become two, splitting off to flank him. He didn't have time to analyze their strategy. His only goal was to lose them, and if he couldn't, to find a place with no witnesses and no cameras and put them all on the ground. They had seen his face. Killing one man or killing five, it made no difference to him. As a god of war overseas, his hands were already stained with the blood of countless men. Even if they hadn't gotten a good look, if he couldn't shake them, they were dead. A loose end was a loose end. As the protagonist of his own story, Leo's speed and stamina were superhuman. He quickly widened the gap, leaving Rocco and Vinny struggling to keep up. A sneer formed on his lips as he prepared to lose them for good. They weren't even a decent warm-up. Useless, just like Asher Vance. Just as he was contemplating which five-star hotel he'd visit to blow off some steam, two figures emerged from the shadows, blocking his path. He'd unconsciously run from the crowded main street into a narrow, deserted alley. This was his element. He had absolute confidence in his ability to handle any threat here. The lack of cameras and witnesses was a bonus. If he couldn't use the terrain to escape, he'd use it as a killing floor. Marco lunged, launching a powerful roundhouse kick aimed straight at Leo's head, the air whistling with the force of the blow. It was strong, but lacked the terrifying power Leo himself commanded. Leo snapped his arms up to block. Thwack! The impact was like a sledgehammer. The gash on his arm from the earlier fight in the bar split open, blood soaking his sleeve. In that single exchange, Leo knew these weren't ordinary thugs. They were the elite, Petrocelli's best. While defending, Leo exploded forward with a vicious knee strike, driving it deep into Marco's abdomen. The blow was blindingly fast and brutal. Marco doubled over, the wind knocked out of him, his insides feeling like they'd been turned to liquid. Joey moved in instantly, covering his partner and giving him a precious second to recover. But Leo was no longer a man. He was a predator, a nocturnal beast that had tasted blood. They had seen his face. They all had to die. The best defense is a relentless offense. This was Leo's creed. In his military days, his savage, unrelenting boxing style had become legendary. He unleashed a furious barrage of punches, a storm of fists aimed at Joey's head. Thud, thud, thud. The sickening, meaty impacts echoed in the narrow alley. Joey raised his arms to protect his head, holding on for a few brutal moments before his defense shattered. Both his arms were broken, mangled. His head was now completely exposed. Leo's eyes were cold, devoid of mercy. He didn't stop. He continued his brutal assault, pounding Joey's skull again and again. With each blow, Joey felt his consciousness slipping away, his brain rattling inside his head like a marble in a can. It was a textbook concussion, followed swiftly by death. He collapsed, blood pouring from his eyes, nose, and ears. Leo stood over the body, his breathing steady. No cameras, no witnesses. Perfect. Bang! A gunshot ripped through the night. Son of a bitch, I'll kill you. Marco screamed, a classic Colt M 1911-1 shaking in his hand as he fired at Leo. Times had changed. The moment the shot rang out, Leo's body reacted before his mind could even process the sound. He twisted sideways, instinctively moving his vital organs out of the bullet's path. The round still tore through the flesh of his right arm, and blood gushed from the new wound. Pain was a foreign concept to him, an insult. Ever since becoming the Dragon King, he hadn't bled. These men had crossed a line. They would all die for it. In one fluid motion, Leo executed a combat roll, grabbing Joey's corpse and hauling it up in front of him as a human shield. He advanced slowly, methodically, on Marco, perfectly concealed behind the dead man's body. "You motherfucker!" Marco shrieked, his voice cracking with a mix of rage and primal fear. The terror was a cold wave washing up from his feet to the top of his skull. Leo was an animal, a monster who had beaten his brother to death with his bare hands and now faced down a gun without a flicker of fear. Marco backpedaled, firing several more shots, but each bullet thudded harmlessly into the corpse. His plan to intimidate Leo with the gun had failed spectacularly. The distance between them shrank. 10 paces. Leo's eyes narrowed. With a guttural roar, he hurled the body at Marco. At the same time, he charged, closing the remaining distance in a blur of motion. Bang! Bang! Marco fired 2 more wild shots as he scrambled to avoid the flying corpse. It was useless. Leo was already on him. He unleashed a devastating front kick, channeling the full power of his ancient martial arts discipline. The air itself seemed to crackle and split around his leg. Marco's ribs shattered on impact. He felt as if he'd been hit by a truck, a spray of blood erupting from his mouth as he was sent flying backward. The Colt clattered to the pavement. Leo calmly bent down, scooped up the pistol, and leveled it at Marco's head. He squeezed the trigger. Bang! Another shot, but this one wasn't his. It came from the mouth of the alley. Leo dove to the side, taking cover behind a large metal dumpster. Rocco and Vinny had arrived. Seeing them, Leo abandoned finishing off Marco and prioritized his own safety. Marco lay on the ground, a crater in his chest, gurgling his last breaths. He was a dead man. Joey. Marco! Vinny screamed, his face a mask of fury as he took in the carnage. He started to charge forward, intent on tearing Leo apart with his bare hands. Rocco grabbed him, yanking him back. "Vinny, you idiot, get back here. He has a gun now." The two of them scrambled for cover. "Boss, I'm gonna kill that bastard." Vinny sobbed, his eyes shot with blood. Smack! Rocco slapped him hard across the face. "Calm the hell down. You want revenge? Stay alive first." Vinny finally seemed to snap out of it. He pulled out his phone, telling Sal to get the car ready. They had heard the gunshots as they ran over. Even if Leo had a gun, he couldn't have many bullets left. They were right. The Colt had 5 rounds remaining. For a god of war like Leo, firearms were basic training. 5 bullets were more than enough. But with a moment to breathe, Leo started thinking. He had shaken them. How did Marco and Joey know exactly where to wait for him? They must have planted a tracker on him. It couldn't be his phone. It had to be something else. He quickly patted himself down, and there it was, tucked into the hem of his jacket, a micro-tracker no bigger than a sequin. A flash of memory. The influencer in the Ari cosplay pressing up against him in the club. It was her. He couldn't believe it. The seductive cosplayer was one of Petroselli's people. That bitch. But his mind was already working. If they could use the tracker to find him, he could use it to kill them. He ripped a strip of cloth from his shirt and tied a crude bandage around his bleeding arm. He held the tiny tracker in his palm. Using his phone's front-facing camera, he peeked around the dumpster. Seeing that Rocco and Vinny were still hunkered down, Leo suddenly broke from cover and sprinted deeper into the labyrinth of alleys. "Rocco, the punk's running again," Vinny said. Rocco took a deep breath, his eyes like chips of ice. "We have the tracker. What's the rush? Check on Marco first." He barked into his earpiece. "Sal, get out of the car. He's heading for a dead end. We're boxing him in. I'm going to twist his goddamn head off and dedicate it to Joey." Vinny knelt by Marco's body, his shoulders shaking. Rocco just glanced at the mangled chest. He knew it was over. He kicked Vinny's leg. "What the hell are you crying for? This is the life we chose. It gets us all sooner or later. Now get up. We're going hunting." "Yes, boss," Vinny said, wiping his tears on his sleeve. The hulking, vicious-looking man was sobbing like a child. Only one thought remained in his head: kill Leo Flynn. Meanwhile, Leo had run a few hundred yards. His mind was racing, processing the terrain. He stopped. He tossed the tracker behind a stack of discarded pallets, a natural blind corner, as if he were setting an ambush there. Then he silently circled around to the opposite side and waited. Soon he heard footsteps. "Rocco, the bastard's waiting for us over there." "Heh, dumbass. He's dead." Rocco's crew was pushing a large, wheeled dumpster in front of them, a piece of mobile cover. Sal and Vinny pushed from the front, while Rocco and Dante followed behind, pistols raised. It was a clumsy, noisy approach. A cruel smile spread across Leo's face. Fools. He wasn't in great shape. One arm was injured, cutting his combat effectiveness. And they were armed. He had to end this fast. As they rounded the corner, Rocco spotted a smear of blood on the ground near the pallets, and his brain screamed. "It's a trap! Bang! Bang!" Leo fired twice. The first shot blew out Dante's brains. The second was for Rocco. The moment the shots rang out, Vinny and Sal, momentarily stunned by Dante's collapse, reacted on pure adrenaline. They threw themselves forward, using their own bodies as human shields to protect Rocco. "Rocco, kill the son of a bitch!" Vinny screamed. "I'm coming for you, you coward!" Sal roared. They charged mindlessly. The ferocity of their suicidal attack momentarily surprised Leo, but he recovered instantly, methodically aiming his pistol and putting a bullet in each of their heads. Bang! Bang! Sparks flew off the alley wall. Vinny's skull exploded. Rocco, his eyes burning with tears of rage, finally got a clear shot and squeezed off several rounds in Leo's direction. For the first time since he'd joined the life, the hardened Thorne family enforcer cried. 30 minutes later, Leo Flynn emerged from the alley, his face pale. He had killed all 6 of them, but not without a cost. He'd taken 2 more bullets. He'd need at least a couple of weeks to recover fully. He pulled out his phone and made a call to a trusted subordinate who had just arrived in New York City. Back at the Midnight Lounge, at Serafina's insistence, Asher had someone find her a change of clothes. Because of the chaos, the only clean outfit they could find backstage belonged to one of the club's atmosphere models, a bunny costume. Asher had assumed the proud, icy woman would rather walk home smelling of spilled liquor than put on something so ridiculous. He thought wrong. Serafina snatched the costume, disappeared into a dressing room, and emerged a few minutes later, her original designer dress neatly folded in a plastic bag. The dressing room door opened. "Serafina, let's go," Asher said, not really looking up. "I'll drive you home. If we stick around, the cops will want statements, and that's a whole headache I don't need." It was the honest truth. "I'll drive you home. If we stick around, the cops will want statements, and that's a whole headache I don't need." It was the honest truth. He had people to handle the fallout. He didn't need to be here personally. All the other high rollers on the second floor had already vanished. Asher blinked. He finally looked at her. His eyes widened. Her face was flushed, a delicate pink. The bunny costume fit. It fit perfectly, in every sense of the word. The wide, low-cut neckline highlighted the elegant curve of her neck and her flawless collarbones. The bottom half was a short, black, high-sheen skirt that hugged her hips. Who would have ever imagined that the famously aloof, untouchable goddess of the corporate world would one day be dressed in a degrading bunny costume? Holy crap, the Ice Queen actually did it. All she needs is a pair of bunny ears to complete the look. I am so tempted to take a picture right now. Post it online. Let everyone see the Ice Princess's secret side. Ha ha ha, that would be hilarious. Go find me a trench coat. Serafina snapped, her face burning. She glared at him, but there was no real heat behind it. She only felt comfortable enough to wear this because they were alone. The thought of walking through the club and out to the parking garage like this was mortifying. All right, hang on. Asher tore his eyes away, feeling like he'd just been given a rare glimpse of a mythical creature. His mind wandered. It would look even better on Chloe. What a waste of a good outfit. He called one of his guys and had him fetch a beige women's trench coat. The subordinate was not granted the privilege of seeing Seraphina's new look. She made Asher step out to get the coat from him, ordering everyone to stay at least 20 feet away. Seraphina draped the coat over her shoulders, and the outfit that could have sent 1,000 men into cardiac arrest was perfectly concealed. Okay, can we go now? The cops are going to be here any minute, Asher urged. Seraphina stared at him, a strange look in her eyes. Then she asked a question that completely blindsided him. Asher, are you some kind of creepy siscon? Asher's face froze. His expression was a chaotic mix of shock and disbelief. Are you blind, you idiot woman? How could a question like that even come out of your mouth? You'd have to have a lobotomy to think something so stupid. Chloe and I barely get along. She's one of the heroines. We fight every time we see each other. And she's my sister. Use your brain, please. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have gained personal endurance +3. Asher forced an awkward, polite smile. Seraphina, I think you're mistaken. Chloe is my sister. The person I like is you. She rolled her eyes, a gesture so perfectly executed it was almost beautiful. But deep down, a tiny, inexplicable flicker of relief warmed her chest. She had misinterpreted his thoughts, worried for a moment that he harbored some twisted affection for Chloe. Thankfully, she was just overthinking things. Let's just go. Seriously, Asher said, his patience wearing thin. Seraphina held out a slender, porcelain-white hand. Asher stared at it, utterly clueless. Is she offering me her hand? Seeing his blank expression, Seraphina's embarrassment turned to annoyance. Take my hand, she commanded through gritted teeth. Ugh, women. So much drama, he griped internally. He took her hand, figuring she was just shaken from the shooting. It was probably her first time seeing someone get killed, and her legs were weak from fear. He just helped her walk. All things considered, she was handling it a lot better than Toby Page had. At least, she hadn't wet herself. They slipped out a back exit. As they walked, Seraphina's other hand found the soft flesh at his side and gave it a vicious pinch, leaving Asher completely bewildered. Meanwhile, in a quiet lounge nearby, Zara Thorne had been waiting for over an hour. She sent another message to Rocco. No reply. Her brow furrowed as she sipped her drink. Don't tell me even Rocco's team failed. To pass the time, she had Googled the concept of a protagonist in fiction. The results were all about invincible heroes, blessed by fate, destined to win. It was a bunch of nonsensical jargon she didn't understand, having never been one for novels. But Zara held one firm belief. Even if Asher was right and Leo Flynn was the world's protagonist, he was still a man. And men were made of flesh and blood. They bleed. And if they bleed enough, they die. 6 martial arts masters, 3 handguns, and a tracker. It should have been more than enough to kill one man. Did you hear? Something went down at the Midnight Lounge. Leo the Bull, Petrocelli is dead. Old news. Heard it was a rival hit. Guy died ugly. I was there. I heard gunshots. I've got bigger news for you guys. There was a massive shootout in an alley in the meatpacking district. 6 guys dead. Someone posted a video on TikTok. You gotta see it before it gets taken down. The chatter from the next table overmade Zara's hand tremble slightly, the stem of her wine glass cool against her skin. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She pulled out her phone and opened TikTok. She didn't even have to search. A local trending video popped up on her feed. It was less than 10 minutes old and already had tens of thousands of likes. The video was grainy and censored. Bloodstains painted the pavement. Bodies lay strewn about, a handgun visible near one of them. The person filming had kept their distance, clearly wanting the viral views without getting involved with the police. After a few seconds of stunned silence, a slow, intriguing smile spread across Zara's face. She made a call, ordering a cleanup crew to dispose of the bodies and to scrub the internet of any related videos. She scanned the comment section. Amateurs were already speculating that the dead men were Petrocelli's crew, gunned down by his rivals while seeking revenge. Perfect, she thought. Let Leo Flynn believe that. A dead end. Her job now was to erase every trace of evidence, leaving no one to testify. The videos would be easy enough to remove. The Thorne family had an army of lawyers. Anyone who tried to re-upload them would receive a cease and desist, followed by a lawsuit. They'd make an example of a few to scare off the rest. I underestimated you, Leo Flynn, Zara murmured, downing the last of her Bloody Mary in one smooth motion. The corner of her lip curled into a smile that was both alluring and dangerous. Asher was right. From this moment on, I'm taking this seriously. At the Hayes family estate, a sprawling villa in one of New York's most exclusive neighborhoods. We're here, Serafina. Asher smiled, leaning over to open her passenger side door. Getting her here was easy. Getting her to leave was proving to be the hard part. He was practically buzzing with anticipation for her to get out of his car. But Serafina, sitting in the passenger seat, didn't look happy at all. In fact, she looked miserable. Harrison Hayes had just texted her. He and her mother were at a charity gala that was running late. They had decided to stay at a 5-star hotel for the night and would be back in the morning. The news hit her like a ton of bricks. The villa was usually occupied by just the 3 of them. The housekeepers came during the day and left in the evening. If her parents weren't coming home, she would be completely alone in the massive, empty house. Before tonight's shooting, she would have laughed at the idea of being scared. She scoffed at ghost stories and things that go bump in the night. But tonight was different. Tonight, she was terrified. Asher prodded, confused. She wasn't getting out. What was her deal now? Get out of the car before I have to do something gross to make you leave. He waved a hand in front of her face. She just shot him a look that said, "You're an idiot." That did it. His patience snapped. "You want to play games? Fine. Game over." Asher deliberately forced a low, villainous chuckle from his throat. Hiv, hiv, hiv. The sound was so unnatural, it physically hurt his vocal cords. He had no idea how villains in novels managed it. He swore he would never make that sound again. To complete the effect, he leaned in, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Serafina, if you're not getting out, does that mean you want to invite me upstairs for a drink?" His plan was simple. Be so creepy, she'd practically dive out of the car to get away from him. He was sure that even an idiot like Serafina had enough self-preservation to never invite a hot-blooded simp like him into her empty house. "Okay," she said quietly. Just when Asher was mentally patting himself on the back, Serafina's single word shattered his confidence. A faint blush crept up her neck. Asher was sure he'd misheard. Say, Serafina, what did you just say?" She grabbed her things and slid out of the passenger seat. "I said okay." She then walked a few steps ahead to hide the nervous tremor in her hands, her back turned to him. The expression on Asher's face was priceless. "Oh hell, barbecued. I'm done for. Why do you have to open his stupid mouth?" He should have just waited for her to crack and get out on her own. A cool night breeze brushed against Serafina's face, strangely calming. Hearing Asher's internal meltdown made her feel instantly better. She was beginning to enjoy teasing him. Before she could hear his thoughts, she believed his dramatic declarations of love were real. Now she knew it was all an act, a script he was following. So, it was only fair that she got to flip that script on him. After parking the car in the garage, Asher followed Serafina into the house, his heart pounding with dread. I just cost her family billions of dollars. What if this is a trap? What if her parents are waiting inside to lock the doors and strangle me? Serafina had to bite her lip to keep from laughing. His inner monologue was so ridiculous it completely eased her own anxiety. "Lights on," she said. With that simple voice command, the smart lighting system bathed the massive foyer in a warm glow. Asher was more on edge than she was, his eyes darting toward the front door, ready to bolt at the first sign of an ambush. This must be her lure the enemy in deep strategy. "I'm just a slacker villain. My only ambition is to finish the plot and then go get a massage. I don't want to get involved in the heroine's life. Just her." Plotline. "My parents are out for the night," Serafina said, her face a mask of neutrality, though she was inwardly delighted by his panicked state. She knew he'd figure it out eventually, so she might as well tell him now. Asher let out a sigh of relief, so audible it was almost a gasp. But before he could say anything, Serafina spoke again. "Can you cook? I'm a little hungry." "Cook? Cook what? If you're hungry, order DoorDash, since when do I know how to cook?" Asher gave a sheepish laugh. "Serafina, my cooking skills are basic, edible, but a million miles from delicious. How about we just order something?" Serafina had no intention of ordering takeout. She needed an excuse to make him stay. It wasn't that she wanted him to spend the night, God, no. While he'd been parking the car, she had texted her mother, begging her to come home. Her mom had agreed, saying she'd be back after the gala. Serafina just needed to keep Asher here until then. She couldn't be alone. "I never eat takeout," she lied smoothly. "I'll eat whatever you make." Asher's face fell. "To be honest, the only thing I can make is ramen with a boiled egg." "I'm sure your noodles are delicious," Serafina said, offering a little encouragement. The slight double entendre was unintentional, but she was desperate. Neither of them caught the odd phrasing. A moment later, Serafina was leading him into a kitchen the size of a small apartment. It was state-of-the-art, with 2 massive Sub-Zero refrigerators stocked with every ingredient imaginable. "Take your time," she said. "Good things come to those who wait. You can take as long as you need. Use whatever you want. I'll be in the living room, watching TV. What did I do to deserve this in a past life? I have to make noodles for her now. Just go. Get out of here and stop bothering me. You act like I owe you something." Ding. "Congratulations, host. You have acquired master-level knife skills." Ding. "Congratulations, host. You have acquired God-tier noodle-making technique." Ding. "Congratulations, host. You have acquired master-level culinary arts." What the? Asher froze, completely dumbfounded. Was this a critical hit? 3 rewards at once, all related to cooking? The system had to be broken. The Vance family fortune was practically infinite. Why would a rich heir like him ever need to cook for himself? Well, except in situations exactly like this one. The moment the rewards registered, a universe of culinary knowledge flooded his mind. Techniques, flavor profiles, an intuitive understanding of every food imaginable. The upgrade was instantaneous and profound. "Dog system, this is not the lazy, coast-by villain template I signed up for," he grumbled internally. "Next time you give me a skill reward, make it a pill that cures idiocy." Grumbling aside, he had to admit this was a pretty sweet reward. At least now, he wouldn't have to eat instant noodles when he couldn't get takeout. In a vast living room, Serafina sat on the edge of a leather sofa, fidgeting nervously. She didn't dare go to her room to change out of the ridiculous bunny costume. Out in the world, surrounded by people, was one thing. But here, alone in the house with Asher, what if he got ideas while she was changing and just burst in? Besides, she was strangely getting used to it. As long as she kept the trench coat on, he couldn't see the costume underneath anyway. So changing was a moot point. And if he did try anything, she could be out the front door in seconds. But those weren't the real reasons. The real reason was she was afraid of the dark. Sitting here in the living room, she could hear the television, and more importantly, the comforting sounds of someone else moving around in the kitchen. As much as she hated to admit it, while Asher had countless flaws, he also had his merits. When the gunshots had echoed through the club, she had been terrified, her body trembling uncontrollably. Asher had placed a firm, steadying hand on her back, gently patting it while guiding her to a safer spot behind a sofa, shielding her with his own body. She wasn't sure how much time had passed when a rich, savory aroma began to drift from the kitchen. Serafina's nose twitched. Is he really just making noodles? It smells incredible. Honestly, the fear and anxiety had burned through her energy, and she was starving. The delicious smell of the broth filled the living room, and her stomach rumbled in response. Gulp! She swallowed hard, stood up from the sofa, and, like a curious cat, tiptoed quietly toward the kitchen. Inside, Asher was simmering a rich bone broth in a large stock pot, while simultaneously carving a piece of fruit with a paring knife. The benefits of his new master-level knife skills were obvious. The professional-grade kitchen knives felt like extensions of his own hands. He could twirl them, executing complex, flashy moves without the slightest fear of cutting himself. It was as if the blades had eyes. Hearing footsteps, he set down the apple he'd been working on for less than a minute. It was now carved into the shape of a perfect, blooming rose. At a glance, you couldn't even tell it was an apple. It was both appetizing and a stunning display of craftsmanship. "I thought you were waiting outside," Asher said, wiping the knife clean and placing it back in its block. Serafina blushed. She couldn't very well admit that the smell of his cooking had drawn her in like a cartoon character floating toward a pie. "Asher, you said you couldn't cook," she accused, striding into the kitchen to cover her embarrassment. She picked up the apple rose, her eyes wide with shock. The detail was incredible. Asher just shrugged and smiled. "I couldn't before. I can now." It was the simple truth. For once, his inner voice was silent, giving her no clues. She just assumed he'd been teasing her earlier, planning a surprise. "Oh," she gasped suddenly. Asher jumped, thinking she'd cut herself. "Idiot. I mean, Serafina, what's wrong?" Ignoring his internal slip-up, Serafina pointed a slender finger toward a platter on the counter, filled with a menagerie of intricately carved fruits. "You did all of these?" It wasn't just apple roses. There were swans carved from melons, dolphins from bananas, and even a majestic phoenix sculpted from a pineapple. She had thought the apple was the limit of his talent. She was wrong. "Just messing around," Asher said nonchalantly. And he was. What was the point of having master-level skills if you didn't test them out? In his mind, these were flawed first attempts, rushed due to a lack of time. "Anyway, you're just in time. Take these out and snack on them," he said, trying to shoo her away. "The broth is almost ready." I'll call you when it's time to eat. A woman's presence will only slow down my carving speed. Serafina arched an eyebrow at him, then picked up the apple rose again. She hesitated, admiring it for a moment before taking a bite. The apple seemed to taste even sweeter, a feast for both the eyes and the palate. I can wait here, she declared. Huh, so be it. Asher went back to work. To make a perfect bowl of ramen, the broth was everything. He expertly whisked some eggs and dropped them in a hot oil, creating crispy, perfectly fried toppings. He moved around the kitchen with an effortless grace, his actions methodical and precise. Serafina watched, mesmerized. The aroma in the kitchen was even more intense, a constant, tantalizing assault on her senses. Just how many secrets was Asher hiding? She had no idea. Her ideal partner could be clueless about many things, but he had to know how to cook. If he was broke, she could support him. But if he couldn't cook, hard pass. In that one respect, Asher was exceeding all expectations. She looked down at the platter of fruit art, feeling almost guilty about eating them. She carefully selected the least perfect ones, the ugly ducklings of the bunch, but even those were masterpieces. Serafina nibbled on the fruit, her eyes glued to what Asher was doing at the stove. She was the perfect embodiment of the phrase, eating what's in your bowl while eyeing what's in the pot. The fruit was delicious, but its flavor was finite. It couldn't compare to the soul-stirring fragrance wafting from the simmering pot. She couldn't take it anymore. She swallowed again, her patience wearing thin. Seeing the packet of fresh ramen noodles still sitting untouched on the counter, she pointed a delicate finger. Asher, why haven't you dropped the noodles yet? She asked, trying to sound casual. Inside, she was screaming, I'm about to starve to death. But she couldn't let him know that. It would ruin her cool, collected image. And more importantly, it would inflate his ego. Asher was getting hungry too. He chuckled. All right, I'm dropping them now. Standing behind him, a rare, genuine smile touched Serafina's lips. She leaned forward slightly, instinctively urging him on. Good. Hurry up and get them in there for me. I really don't want to wait anymore. Back at the Midnight Lounge, the scene was swarming with police. Captain Miller, these 2 shootings tonight are major, an officer reported. Besides Petroselli, we've got 6 other known associates dead in an alley. Captain Miller's brow furrowed. Of course, he knew it was a major case. That's what had him stuck between a rock and a hard place. This wasn't even his jurisdiction. He and his team had been on patrol nearby when the call came in. But Catherine Young had insisted they respond immediately. He sighed. What would he do? Catherine was a Young, one of the city's most powerful families. But he wasn't too worried. Cases like this, involving the delicate balance of power between the great families, always got kicked upstairs to a specialized unit. Sure enough, a few detectives whose pay grades dwarfed his own walked in a moment later. Miller smiled, exchanged pleasantries with the familiar faces, and then gathered his own people to leave. Officer Young, let's go, he called out. This case has been reassigned to a special task force. Our work here is done. Catherine was staring at Petroselli's body, a wave of nausea washing over her. She fought it down. When the news had come in about the 6 bodies in the meatpacking district, she knew instantly who was responsible. The Thorne family. Only they had the audacity and the resources to pull off such a brazen public execution. But knowing and proving were 2 different things. She had no evidence. Captain, I want to stay and assist their investigation, Catherine said, her expression grim. Miller's eyelid twitched. Kid, they're telling us to back off. Don't you see they're trying to bury this, to smooth it over? Why are you so determined to get involved? Officer Young, I'm ordering you to stand down, Miller said, his voice hardening, taking on the tone of a stern father. But Catherine wouldn't budge. She was as stubborn as they came. The 2 of them stood in a silent standoff. The lead detective from the special unit walked over, holding a file with an official seal. Officer Young, we're just following protocol. Please don't make this difficult for us. Her reputation preceded her. Everyone in the department knew who she was. You people never change, she shot back, her voice ringing with frustration. You made me the same promise last time, and what happened? That shooting case was swept under the rug as gang violence. What about the innocent families caught in the crossfire? Did they ever get justice? You don't deserve to wear that badge. She turned on her heel and stormed out. Miller gave the detective an apologetic look. The detective just smiled sadly. Her world is so simple, he said, clear as water. Miller took a long drag from a cigarette. Weren't all of ours once? The results aren't always what we set out for. But we're caught in the middle of it, and there's not a damn thing we can do. The detective just nodded. After a few more words, Miller left as well. At the Hayes estate, 2 large bowls of ramen sat on the dining table. The noodles were topped with a crispy fried egg, cooked with a special technique that made it savory without being greasy. The broth was a creamy, milky white, and its aroma was intoxicating. Finely chopped scallions were sprinkled on top, a perfect harmony of color, scent, and flavor. Serafina decided she had been polite for long enough. She couldn't hold back another second. "I'm digging in," she announced. She eagerly slurped up a mouthful of noodles. They were fresh out of the pot and scalding hot. She immediately had to spit them back into the bowl. "Ow, hot," she mumbled, embarrassed, sticking out her tongue to cool it down. The sight made Asher instinctively think of the golden retriever his family had when he was in high school, panting in the summer shade. Puffed! The thought was so vivid that Serafina, hearing it, couldn't help but spray a fine mist of broth across her own bowl. Luckily, they were sitting far enough apart that Asher was spared from the fallout. "Whoa, was that really necessary? I have my own bowl. It's not like I was going to steal your food. Seriously, you idiot woman, that's just gross." "Are you okay, Serafina?" Asher asked, a smirk playing on his lips. She shot him a glare and then lowered her head again, carefully blowing on the broth to cool it down. She took a tentative sip. Her eyes lit up. The hour-long simmer with the bone broth had paid off. The creamy, rich flavor was divine, an experience that words couldn't do justice. So, Serafina expressed her appreciation through action. In the next instant, she went into full-on foodie mode, slurping down the noodles like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Asher tried a bite of his own. It was good, far better than anything he'd ever made before. But with all the culinary knowledge now crammed in his brain, he knew this was just barely passable. To make something truly spectacular would have taken 3 times as long, and he wasn't about to spend that kind of effort on Serafina. He'd only gone this far to test out his new skills. And the test results were in. They were awesome. In what felt like no time at all, they both finished their bowls almost simultaneously. Asher hadn't expected the ramen to be that good. He'd only made a normal portion, but there was still a small amount left in the pot in the kitchen. At that moment, his and Serafina's thoughts aligned perfectly. To hell with the novel's plot. To hell with protagonists and heroines. In the face of more ramen, all of that was worthless. Suddenly, Serafina threw all sportsmanship out the window. "Asher, if you really love me, you'll let me have the rest of those noodles." With that, she shot up from her chair and sprinted toward the kitchen. Asher shot up too, but he hesitated for a fraction of a second, as if frozen by a spell. In that moment, he made a decision that temporarily defied his character's script. The ramen was just too good. Nothing was going to stand between him and a second helping. He chased after her into the kitchen. He was a step behind her. Crash! Before he even crossed the threshold, he heard the sickening sound of something, or someone, hitting the floor. The expression on Asher's face was a work of art. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Did the idiot woman actually fall?" He walked into the kitchen. There on the floor was Serafina, who had apparently inherited the slapstick genes of a cartoon character. She had slipped on a small puddle of water about 3 feet from the stove and gone down hard. It looked painful. So painful that Asher's first instinct was to turn around, walk out of the house, and pretend he'd never been there. The paramedics would probably get here in time. "Serafina, are you okay?" he asked, pushing aside his less charitable thoughts and walking over. Serafina wanted to curse. All she wanted was another bowl of noodles. Was that so wrong? A sharp pain shot through her ankle, and she bit her lip to keep from crying out. "I twisted my ankle," she mumbled, her cheeks flushed with humiliation. It was so embarrassing. She'd fallen while racing for food. How stupid must she look? In fact, Asher was already cataloging it in his mind. Has this idiot woman never eaten a meal before? Only you could manage to become a cripple over a bowl of ramen. You want a kind. At least when you fell, you didn't knock over the pot of broth. Small miracles, I guess. Serafina's brow furrowed even deeper. She shot him a venomous glare, which only made another jolt of pain radiate from her foot. Hiss! She instinctively sucked in a sharp breath. "Help! Help me up," she said, her voice small, her face a mixture of shame and annoyance. If she didn't ask, she knew he would just stand there and watch under the guise of respecting her personal space when he was really just standing by, ready to call 911. She'd heard it all in his head. Oh, Asher blinked. The Ice Princess was actually asking him to touch her. Whatever. I'll just pretend I'm lifting Peppa Pig. He bent down, sliding one arm around her slender waist and the other under her knees. He lifted her in a perfect princess carry. Aside from being flat-chested, she was surprisingly dense, heavier than she looked. She felt like a human space heater in his arms. Serafina squirmed uncomfortably, but a fresh wave of pain from her ankle forced her to be still. "I'll put you on the sofa," he said. "Wait, My noodles, she cried, glancing mournfully at the pot. Asher's mouth twitched. Nobody's going to steal them from you. He carried her into the living room and gently placed her on the sofa. She sat with her leg bent, her long, pale fingers probing her slightly swollen ankle. She tried to unbuckle the strap of her sandal, but no matter how she tugged, it wouldn't come loose. All her frantic efforts only made the pain worse. Her eyes started to water. She bit her lip and looked at Asher, her voice barely a whisper. Asher, can you help me? Is that how you ask for a favor? You're really testing this villain's patience. And setting aside the question of whether I even want to help, what if you have foot odor? I could be taken out before my mission is complete, felled by toxic fumes. Ding. Congratulations, host. You have gained personal charm +1. Hearing his thoughts and seeing his utter lack of movement, Serafina lost it. In a fit of pique, she stuck her uninjured foot out toward him. Asher, my feet do not stink. Smell for yourself if you don't believe me. Asher jumped back, startled. How did she know what he was thinking? Was his expression that obvious? Huh, Serafina, I was just so happy you asked for my help that I froze for a second. She gave him a withering look. Lying sack of crap. The throbbing in her injured ankle returned, and she couldn't hold back a snap. Hurry up. Asher knelt in front of her, his gaze falling on her outstretched foot. It was flawless, pale and delicate, with no visible veins. Her 5 perfectly shaped toes, painted with a pearlescent polish, curled slightly. There was no odor. In fact, there was a faint, pleasant scent. He first removed the sandal from her uninjured foot. When his fingers closed around her heel, he felt her entire body tense up. Don't move, he warned. You'll make the other one worse, and then we'll have to call an ambulance. Serafina nodded. She was relieved, and yet strangely disappointed, that his thoughts were completely clinical. Soon the shoe was off. Asher found himself admiring her legs. Not bad. Legs for days. But they still can't compare to the she-devils. Serafina's brow tightened. She knew he was talking about Scarlet Jo. What was so great about Scarlet's legs anyway? Wait here. I'm going to get something from the fridge, Asher said, standing up. Serafina assumed he was getting ice for her ankle, so she didn't object. He's actually being kind of thoughtful. I'll let the leg comment slide. For now. She closed her eyes, waiting for him to return. A moment later, he was back. In one hand, he held an ice-cold Coke. In the other, an ice-cold Sprite. Serafina stared at him, bewildered. Asher placed the Sprite on the table in front of her. Here, drink this, he explained. It'll help with the shock. I'm going to call for an ambulance. That looks pretty serious, and I don't know any first aid. I'd probably just make it worse. With that, he popped the tab on his Coke and took a long drink. The fizz was glorious. Serafina was about to explode. Her face was flushed with rage, and her eyes looked like they could shoot lasers. It was becoming clear that unless she specifically told him to do something, this man would not deviate from his pre-programmed script by a single inch. Asher, she said, her voice dangerously calm, a vein pulsing in her forehead. Could you please go to the freezer, get some ice, and put on my ankle? Asher coughed. I still think we should call a team of medical professionals. Trust the experts. Serafina, I don't care what you think. I want what I think. It's a minor sprain. It does not require an ambulance. Asher considered it. She had a point. It was like using a sledgehammer to kill a fly. He sighed and trudged back to the kitchen to get some ice. Asher returned with an ice pack. Serafina eyed it nervously. Asher, is it going to hurt? How should I know? He replied bluntly. The last time I sprained my ankle, I was a kid. Probably a little. This ice is really cold, so you'll have to bear with it. That was not what she wanted to hear. She recoiled, but the throbbing pain in her ankle was a constant, agonizing reminder. Short-term pain for long-term gain, she told herself. Steeling her nerves, she held out her slightly swollen foot. Her toes curled inward in anticipation. It's a real shame those legs are wasted. They could be pedaling a rickshaw. Asher couldn't help but stare for an extra second. A beautiful woman's foot really was a powerful weapon. He finally pressed the ice pack against the swelling. Hiss. It hurts. It hurts. Serafina yelped, snatching her foot back as if she'd been electrocuted. She couldn't handle that initial shock of cold. Asher sighed, exasperated. I told you it was cold. Just hold on for a second, and it'll get better. She shook her head vigorously, her face a mask of refusal. She wouldn't let him call an ambulance, and she wouldn't let him apply ice. She was impossible. Asher was tempted to just toss the ice pack in her lap and let her deal with it. Then, an idea struck him. Why don't you eat some of my noodles while I apply the ice? Serafina's eyes lit up. The ramen had been heavenly. Maybe the pleasure of eating would distract from the pain. She contained her excitement and gave a solemn nod. Okay, let's do it your way. What a child, Asher thought with a private smile. But hey, whatever worked. A moment later, Serafina was sitting on the sofa with a bowl of leftover ramen in her lap, her eyes still fixated on the ice pack in Asher's hand. Stop looking at it, he said. This is called the classic misdirection technique. Focus all your attention on the noodles, and you won't feel the pain. She nodded and began to slurp the noodles. Seeing she was distracted, Asher moved the ice pack toward her ankle again. Her little foot twitched. MMPH. It still hurts. You bastard, Asher. You lied to me. I hate you. You big liar, she mumbled through a mouthful of ramen. Just bear with it, he coached. You'll get through it. Focus on my noodles. Serafina did as she was told, tears welling in her eyes. Her slurping grew louder, more frantic. Slurp, slurp, gulp. The glorious, savory taste of the ramen eventually overpowered the painful cold. A moment later, she exclaimed with delight, Asher, you're a genius. This method is amazing. A first-timer like me can really feel its incredible effects. Does it still hurt? Not anymore. Not at all. It's kind of good pain now, you know? Like pain and pleasure at the same time. Well, I'm glad to hear my efforts weren't wasted, Asher said with a smile. She sniffed, raising her chin. Don't get cocky. I'm just giving you a little praise. I'm used to it now. You can press a little harder. At that exact moment, Mrs. Hayes arrived back at the villa. The front door was controlled by a facial recognition system, so she let herself in silently. The living room was some distance from the entrance, and neither Asher nor Serafina heard her arrive. Seeing the lights on, Mrs. Hayes walked toward the living room to say hello to her daughter. As she got closer, she heard voices. It still hurts. You bastard, Asher. You lied to me. I hate you, you big liar. Just bear with it. You'll get through it. Focus on my noodles. Then came a series of loud slurping and gulping sounds. Asher, you're a genius. This method is amazing. A first-timer like me can really feel its incredible effects. Does it still hurt? Not anymore. Not at all. It's kind of good pain now, you know? Like pain and pleasure at the same time. Well, I'm glad to hear my efforts weren't wasted. Don't get cocky. I'm used to it now. You can press a little harder. Mrs. Hayes froze, her face turning crimson. That shameless girl. So this was why she'd been called home? To walk in on her daughter doing that with some boy in the living room? Why couldn't they at least have the decency to go to a bedroom? The youth of today were absolutely shameless. She had faintly heard the name Asher. Her mind reeled. Could it be the future heir to the Vance Corporation? Her daughter had always professed to despise him. But Mrs. Hayes had always had a soft spot for the boy. He'd sent a lot of business their way. She had tried to play matchmaker before, but Serafina had shut it down so vehemently that she had dropped it. But now, this changes everything. This wasn't dislike. You don't bring someone you dislike home to do that. Mrs. Hayes listened for another moment, her face burning, then tiptoed back the way she came. She slipped out of the villa as silently as she had entered, not wanting to disturb them. She was so flustered that she didn't even get back in her car, instead walking all the way out of the gated community before stopping, her heart pounding in her chest. This was huge. She fumbled for her phone and immediately called her husband. Harrison, she breathed into the phone. Your darling daughter is all grown up. Harrison, fresh out of the shower at the hotel, was confused. What are you talking about? Mrs. Hayes took a deep breath, but it did little to calm her racing heart. That girl. She called me, begging me to come home. And you know what I found her doing? She was in our living room with a man doing, you know what? What? Harrison roared, his voice cracking. Who is he? Which family's punk is it? I'll kill the son of a bitch. Harrison, calm down, Mrs. Hayes said, a smile in her voice. It's good news. Great news. Harrison felt like his lungs were about to explode. He was already pulling on his shoes, ready to drive home and commit murder. Good news? Have you lost your mind? It's really good news, she insisted. The man is Asher Vance. Harrison froze, his hand halfway to tying his shoelace. His expression shifted from rage to shock to utter disbelief. That's impossible. Did you see him with your own eyes? Of course I did, Mrs. Hayes said, annoyed by his skepticism. That little minx was playing us all along. Harrison, when I got to the living room, I could hear her moaning and groaning, saying things like it doesn't hurt anymore, and your method is so new and effective. She's just as shameless as you were when you were chasing me. Harrison burst into laughter. Asher Vance, the Vance family. The billions they had lost were nothing to an empire like that. A drop in the ocean. Darling, you wound me, he crooned. Where are you now? You can't go back in there. Come to the hotel. A new wave of excitement surged through him. Mrs. Hayes was still blushing. You dirty old man. I was so afraid of disturbing them that I walked out of the neighborhood. You'd better come and pick me up. Harrison's mood was soaring. Of course, my love. I'm on my way. At the Bulgari Hotel. For men of a certain age, some things are brief. Afterwards, Harrison Hayes lit a cigarette while his wife shot him a look of mild disdain. In his youth, Harrison had been a legendary player, but now he was just an old player, and the years were catching up to him. BZZZT. Mrs. Hayes's phone vibrated on the nightstand. She picked it up. Who is it? Harrison asked, blowing a smoke ring, his expression one of postcoital zen. Your daughter, she replied dryly. Harrison frowned. Why was she calling now? Weren't she and her boyfriend busy? Mrs. Hayes answered the phone. Mom, it's almost midnight. Why aren't you home yet? Seraphina's voice was full of complaint. Being flaked on by her own mother was a new low. Mrs. Hayes bristled, the memory of her daughter's shameless moans making her blush all over again. You shameless girl. You have the nerve to call and question me after what you were doing? Was this little game of yours fun? Letting us think you hated him? Seraphina was completely lost. Game? What game am I playing? Oh, stop pretending with your own mother. Mrs. Hayes snapped. I see right through your little act. On the one hand, you pretend to hate Asher Vance, making your father and me believe it. On the other, you're secretly in love with him and bring him home behind our backs. What was your plan? Wait until the grandchild was born before you finally told us. Seraphina was mortified. Grandchild? Secret love? What on earth was she talking about? It wasn't me. I didn't do it. A horrifying thought dawned on her. Mom, did you come home earlier? Mrs. Hayes's face turned the color of a beet. Yes, I came home. If I hadn't, how long were you planning on deceiving us? After all we've done for you, you ungrateful brat. Seraphina was just as flushed as her mother now. Oh, dear God, she must have misunderstood something. Looking down at her still bruised ankle, she felt deeply wronged. She began to explain, painstakingly recounting the entire, ridiculous series of events. She even took a picture of her swollen ankle and sent it as proof. After a lengthy, excruciating explanation, the misunderstanding was finally cleared up. On the other end of the line, Harrison and Mrs. Hayes were left in stunned silence. The cigarette suddenly tasted bitter in Harrison's mouth. The whole situation was beyond absurd. It was like winning the lottery, matching every number, only to find out on the very last digit that your ticket was for the wrong day. Back at the villa, Seraphina's cheeks and ears were burning. I'm so sorry about tonight, she mumbled. My mom should be back soon, and then you can go. Asher yawned and waved a dismissive hand. No problem, no problem. A few moments passed in awkward silence. Asher had run out of things to complain about internally, so he pulled out his phone to scroll through TikTok and kill time. Huh, missed calls? And texts. He had 6 missed calls and 17 unread messages. 2 of the calls were from his mother, Eleanor, and 4 were from his sister, Chloe. It was undoubtedly about the shooting at the club. Chloe was probably just calling to make sure their parents wouldn't worry, and, incidentally, to see if he was dead yet so she could start planning how to inherit everything. He understood why his father, Lawrence, hadn't called. Eleanor was more than capable of handling the parental worrying for both of them. Asher ignored Chloe's calls and dialed his mother back to assure her he was fine. He stepped out into the entryway for the call, which lasted nearly 20 minutes. After a string of convincing lies, he finally placated her by promising he was done with his wild night and was on his way home, which was for once the truth. Returning to the living room, he opened his messages. They were all from Chloe. He skimmed them, his expression confirming his every suspicion before deleting the entire thread. Chloe, heard there was a shooting at the Midnight Lounge. Weren't you there? Chloe, not that I care, but are you dead? Text back if you're not. Chloe, answer your damn phone so I can stop fantasizing about inheriting the entire Vance fortune. Chloe, fine, don't answer. Hope you die in a ditch somewhere. Heh, nice try, little sister. You're still an amateur, he muttered with a smirk. It was annoying, but he'd promised his parents he wouldn't block her number, a promise Chloe had been forced to make as well. It was a pain. Just then, he heard the front door open. Seraphina, your mom's here, Asher announced, feeling like a man granted a last-minute pardon. Seraphina frowned, but nodded. It's late. I should get going, Asher said, already moving toward the door. He was learning. No more empty promises about seeing you next time. He met Mrs. Hayes in the foyer. Harrison hadn't come with her. The old player had probably run out of stamina for the night. Asher. Mrs. Hayes greeted him warmly. Why don't you stay the night? Our guest rooms are quite comfortable. She knew the boy was head over heels for her daughter. She wasn't about to let him get away so easily. If she could turn this fake relationship into a real one, all the better. Asher smiled, channeling his inner Oscar winner. Thank you for the offer, Mrs. Hayes, but Serafina. Well, it's that time of the month, and on top of that, she hurt her ankle. I should really let her rest. Another time, for sure. Mrs. Hayes, not thinking too deeply about it, accepted the excuse. After another round of pleasantries, she reluctantly watched him leave. Back in the living room, Victoria Jo was gearing up to give her daughter a lecture. When a guy that handsome, from a family that powerful, is chasing you, you say yes. But saying it to her face would only make Scarlett dig her heels in. Pride was her default setting, but it couldn't be her entire personality. Changing Scarlett's mind required a delicate touch. Victoria took a deep breath, a warm smile spreading across her face, so similar to her daughter's. Sweetheart, is your ankle feeling any better? Start soft, then bring the hammer down if necessary. A classic pincer movement. Sooner or later, Scarlett would have to surrender. Scarlett's voice was tinged with a slight whine. Much better. Mom, I told you it was all a misunderstanding. Do you believe me now? Victoria's eyes landed on her daughter, and she froze. The smile on her face stiffened, her eyes went wide, and her perfectly lipsticked mouth formed a perfect O. Scarlett looked down, confused, wondering if she'd explained things wrong. The next second, Victoria's face turned beet red. She shot a trembling, manicured finger at Scarlett's outfit. Believe you? Believe you? How am I supposed to believe you when you're dressed like that? Scarlett glanced down at the bunny costume she was still wearing, and her own face flushed crimson. She scrambled to her feet. Mom, it's not what you think. Her ankles still throbbed, but that was the least of her worries. After another round of frantic, convoluted explanations, Victoria finally, grudgingly, accepted that her daughter hadn't been up to anything sordid. A strange sense of disappointment washed over her. A few days flew by. Scarlett, with the backing of her father, Richard Jo, had scraped together every last cent she had, leveraging nearly her entire life's fortune. The Jo family had managed to liquidate $150 billion in capital. Of course, it was nothing compared to the cool $350 billion Eleanor Vance had effortlessly produced. Moreover, the Jo family's $150 billion was on a short leash. They couldn't have it tied up for more than 2 weeks, or the whole scheme would collapse. Misappropriating company funds on that scale would get Scarlett's branch of the family sued by their own relatives and struck from the family trust. The consequences would be catastrophic. The combined $500 billion was converted into $100 billion USD. Channeled through the Vance Corporation's world-class, sprawling financial infrastructure, the capital was leveraged 10-1, creating a $1 trillion war chest. Every penny was used to buy crude oil bonds. With oil currently priced at $100 a barrel, $1 trillion bought 10 billion barrels worth of bonds. Once the news broke about the 3 new supergiant oil fields, the price of crude would plummet. That would be the moment to dump every last bond. And if the market crashed, that was Wall Street's problem, not theirs. Let them print all the dollars they wanted. If the price dropped to $25 a barrel, the profit margin would be a staggering $75 per barrel. 10 billion barrels of oil, whose value would crash to that of 5 billion barrels. The 5 billion barrel difference was pure profit. At the original price of $100 per barrel, that was a $750 billion gain. Factor in the leverage, and they were looking at a payout of nearly $75 trillion. This wasn't just property or assets. This was liquid cash. A single move that would cement the Vance family as the undisputed titans of global commerce. With that kind of capital, they were untouchable. Leo Flynn's Dragon's Den, for all its power, couldn't lay a scratch on Asher or his family. Scarlett had done all she could. The economic advantage was now absolute. In her manager's office, Scarlett stretched like a contented cat. So tired. Faint dark circles shadowed her beautiful, almond-shaped eyes, which were threaded with red. The past few days had been a whirlwind of frantic work, but as she looked at the numbers on her screen, she knew it was all worth it. She glanced at the clock. Almost quitting time. Time to go collect some interest from my little wolf. A dazzling smile bloomed on her face. When she was in work mode, time flew. It felt like ages since she'd last seen Asher. That wouldn't do. The world was full of conniving vixens. If she lost Asher because she was too busy making money, who could she possibly complain to? Meanwhile, in the CEO's office, Leo Flynn was off the grid. After taking out Leo the Bull Petrocelli, the plot demanded he lay low for a few days. For Asher, this meant a blissful, carefree reprieve. Days were spent teasing his secretary. Nights were for clubs and Instagram models. Life was good. Another day, another dollar, Asher murmured, glancing at his watch with a smile. The end of the workday always brought a thrill of anticipation, and he was no exception. He was just wondering whose number to call up for the evening when a sharp knock echoed on his door. "Come in," he said, his voice cheerful. The door swung open, and his good mood evaporated. It was Scarlett. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were electric. The moment they landed on him, they lit up with an unmistakable, predatory glint. "What's the she-devil doing here?" Asher kept his expression neutral. "Can I help you?" Scarlett nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "You can." "Damn it, she-devil, you played dirty. You couldn't have come during work hours? You had to wait until the exact second I was about to leave? I have a massage appointment to get to." Asher cleared his throat, forcing his gaze away from how her white silk blouse strained against her chest. "If you have something to say, say it. I have important business to attend to." Scarlett blinked her almond eyes, her full red lips parting slightly. "Important business? What kind of important business?" "None of your business, kid." "Personal business," he said coolly. Scarlett lifted a delicate hand and gently kneaded her aching shoulder. "Asher, yeah, take me for a massage." In his fiery red Ferrari 488, Asher decided he must have lost his mind to have agreed to Scarlett's request. "Whatever. It's not like I have any plot points to hit for the next few days. I'm free, and the she-devil does look pretty wiped out. I guess I can play the good guy for once." He consoled himself with the thought. In the passenger seat, Scarlett's lips were curved into a triumphant smile, revealing 2 playful dimples. Just being alone with Asher seemed to melt away all her exhaustion. Everything she'd done felt worth it in that moment. The atmosphere in the car was harmonious, charged with a subtle energy. It felt as if they were the only 2 people in the world. The Ferrari sliced effortlessly through the city traffic. This, he supposed, was something like happiness. Suddenly, the GPS shattered the serene moment. "You have passed your destination, the Whispering Willow Ear Spa and Cultural Center, by 2,000 feet. Rerouting. You have passed your destination, the Whispering Willow Ear Spa and Cultural Center, by 2,000 feet. Rerouting." The robotic voice not only killed the mood, it made Scarlett's perfectly sculpted eyebrows arch. She turned her beautiful eyes toward Asher. A place called the Whispering Willow Ear Spa and Cultural Center. It sounded like the kind of place that wasn't exactly on a level. The destination she'd had in mind was the Grand Elysian Wellness Center, a name that, despite the wellness center part, at least sounded respectable. This place sounded weird. Did Asher have some strange ritual of getting his ears cleaned before massage? Asher jumped, startled. This is absurd. He remembered driving by this place once, a wrong turn from his navigation. He'd taken one look, decided it wasn't his style, and left. He must have forgotten to clear it from his history. Before he could speak, Scarlett looked at him, her voice laced with amusement. "You like getting an ear spa before your massage? You certainly know how to live. It's just, the name doesn't sound entirely proper." Asher's face darkened. He coughed awkwardly. "No, that's not it. The GPS screwed up. The places I go are much classier than this." He had 2 motives for saying this. First, to reinforce his playboy image and warn the she-devil not to get too close. Second, because the Whispering Willow Ear Spa and Cultural Center genuinely sounded like a front for something shady. If he were going to get his ears professionally cleaned, he'd at least pick a place with a name that sounded legitimate, not a place where they'd immediately try to upsell him on something he didn't want. As if on cue, the Ferrari's navigation system chimed in again, seemingly determined to cooperate with his lie. "Proceed straight for 500 yards to enter the Crimson Bloom Ear Spa and Cultural Center. You have arrived at your destination. Please park with caution. Vance Nav is pleased to have guided you." Asher hadn't expected to be called out so quickly. The Ferrari's damn navigation system had sold him out. Well, to be more specific, the navigation system developed by his own damn company had sold him out. A classic case of being hoisted by his own petard. First thing tomorrow, he was going to the dealership and having them rip this cursed console out and replace it. Scarlett burst out laughing, a sound as sweet as it was beautiful. While the she-devil giggled, Asher kept his face a mask of nonchalance and continued driving as if nothing had happened. When they arrived at the real destination, the Grand Elysian, Asher expertly led Scarlett to a VIP room, his personal, reserved space. The owner of the wellness center, eager to curry favor with him, had permanently set aside the largest VIP suite for his exclusive use. It had been a wise decision. In return, Asher had generously made a few calls, opening doors for the owner that no amount of money could have. Stepping into the suite felt like coming home. The GPS incident was already fading from his mind. Scarlett's eyes, however, were wide with curiosity. This was Asher's sanctuary, the place he came to drop his guard and be himself. She scanned the room. The decor was undeniably relaxing, designed for pure comfort. Are you sure you don't want a different room? Asher's voice cut through her thoughts. Bringing his fiancée for a massage felt strange. Scarlett's eyes twinkled playfully. You're such a nag. Asher's eyelid twitched. Fine, but don't blame me if you see something you're not supposed to. I like to get my massages shirtless. Just don't go running to my parents to complain. He felt a flicker of triumph. At her core, Scarlett was still an unattached woman, and women were supposed to be modest. Besides, it wasn't like they were that close yet. Wait, shirtless? Is that an option? Scarlett instinctively licked her lips. She had never seen what Asher's body looked like. Asher saw her look and felt a prickle of unease. This felt like it was backfiring. But the VIP suite had privacy screens. He could handle this. Minor setback, he told himself. Don't panic. A moment later, two beautiful therapists in silk, Chong-Sam-style uniforms entered, their slender waist swaying. Master Asher, your humble servant has arrived. My lord, we've missed you so. Did you miss us too? They had taken notes from number 14, another therapist, and discovered that Asher didn't mind this kind of roleplay. So they decided to lean into it, cosplaying as ancient handmaidens. Their voices were dripping with sweetness. Who knew? Maybe one day Master Asher would lose control and devour them whole. Having the illegitimate child of the national husband was a thrilling thought. If a DNA test proved the child was his, they'd be set for life. The Van Cess could toss them a few $100 million, and they'd never have to work again. They had assumed Asher was alone. When they saw Scarlett standing beside him, looking serene and graceful, they both jumped. This had to be a joke. The two, who had been oozing flirtatious energy, fell silent instantly. Scarlett's almond eyes danced with amusement. Asher, I didn't know you were into this kind of thing. Ancient titles and everything. She paused, two dimples appearing on her cheeks, mimicking the therapist's tone, but infusing it with a natural charm that was leagues beyond them. She purred, My lord, do you require my services? Your humble servant awaits. When the she-devil made a move, she committed. Her voice held a natural, captivating quality, and her tone, posture, and expression were all perfectly calibrated. The comparison was stark. The she-devil won, hands down. Asher glanced at the two therapists, who now looked like frightened quails, their bodies trembling. They had clearly recognized who Scarlett was. Their eyes screamed a single question. As women, why is the gap between us so vast? From the moment they saw Scarlett, they had been struck by a potent cocktail of inferiority and awe. Asher offered them a silent, 3-second moment of sympathy. He couldn't even handle the she-devil. Let her have her fun. After what felt like an eternity, the two therapists shot him a desperate, pleading look. Only then did Scarlett relent. Asher cleared his throat awkwardly. Just do your jobs. The women, granted a reprieve, practically scrambled to his side of the room. Neither of them wanted to be anywhere near Scarlett. The aura she projected was terrifying. It was the ultimate wife versus mistress showdown, and the psychological torment was 1,000 times worse than any physical threat. Scarlett tilted her head, pressing a slender finger to her lips, and offered a devastatingly intellectual and beautiful smile. Am I really that scary? Carrot, carrot. The two therapists looked like their souls were about to leave their bodies. Their slender frames shook uncontrollably. You have to ask, what else would you call this? In the end, they decided seniority would determine their fate. The one with less experience would have to attend to Scarlett. Asher could practically see the blood, sweat, and tears written all over the younger therapist's face. What's so scary about the she-devil? Why are you two so terrified? If you look past her playful side, she's actually kind of cute. You should cherish the opportunity to serve her. Wait, why is her face turning red? A strange blush crept up Scarlett's cheeks. Wolf? Asher tore his gaze away. He was here to relax, not to decipher the she-devil's moods. Suppressing the sudden urge to reach out and pinch her slightly chubby cheeks, he walked into the bathroom to shower before his massage. The routine was smooth, practiced, and refined. The therapist assigned to Scarlett, number 88, followed her with a nervous smile. Miss Jo, there's another bathroom on this side of the room. You can shower first. And if you feel uncomfortable, we can put up the privacy screens to separate you from Mr. Vance. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. Oh. She glanced around the room, then pointed a delicate, pale finger at the ornate, folding Chinese screens. Get rid of them. All of them. Number 88 shot a panicked look at her colleague. Both of them were at a complete loss. Steeling herself, number 88 spoke in a weak voice. Miss Jo, I'm not sure that's. within the rules. Their position was clear. In this room, Asher called the shots. They would wait for him to come out. A cryptic smile played on Scarlett's lips. Is seducing an engaged man within the rules? The expressions on the therapist's faces were priceless. If they said no, they were admitting guilt. If they said yes, they were digging their graves even deeper. Before I got here, he was in charge. Now that I'm here, I am, Scarlett added, her voice firm. Don't worry about him blaming you. I'll take full responsibility. Defeated, the two women had no choice but to comply. A short while later, Asher emerged from the bathroom in a robe, feeling refreshed and relaxed. He looked around. Something important was missing. Where are the screens? The two therapists looked pained. Just then, the door to the other bathroom opened. I had to move them out, Scarlett announced. She was wearing a loose, white robe, her porcelain skin an open invitation to sin. You're insane. I gave you an out, and you didn't take it. God, I'm getting dizzy. Asher averted his eyes, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm. He forced himself to walk calmly to one of the massage tables. A triumphant curve graced Scarlett's lips as she glided over to the table right next to his. Asher stared, bewildered, and pointed to the far side of the room. There's another table over there. I prefer this one, Scarlett said, shutting down the conversation. Her figure is simply too explosive. Asher didn't want to play the saint, but he didn't want to be a beast either. You can have this spot. He decided to retreat. Discretion was the better part of valor. He could practically hear Scarlett reading his mind. The reason I chose this spot, she said, her voice smooth as silk, is because I wanted to discuss some work matters with you. Seeing the complete lack of interest on his face, she added, and talked strategy about how to win over Serafina Hayes. Asher froze mid-step. Are you kidding me, she-devil? You want to play games? Fine, I'll play. He turned back, shrugging off his robe as he walked, a look of intense interest plastered on his face. I'm all ears. The two therapists stared, dumbfounded. A model couple? The wife teaching the husband how to woo his mistress? What kind of bizarre soap opera had they stumbled into? Their entire worldview was crumbling. A woman's body could attract a man, but the reverse was also true. Asher's chiseled 8-pack abs and perfectly proportioned, powerful physique were enough to drive any woman wild. The sheer visual impact was stunning. Scarlett's breathing quickened slightly. Her beautiful eyes looked like they wanted to glue themselves to his abs. She made no effort to hide her aggressive, hungry gaze. Asher was taken aback, but he considered a draw. They were hurting each other equally. Scarlett's devilish figure was its own brand of lethal, intoxicating liquor. All in all, he wasn't losing this exchange. A while later, they were both lying face down on their tables, only about 3 feet apart. The conversation had drifted from Serafina to other things. The main plot points were secure. That was all that mattered. As for the minor details, to hell with them. He certainly didn't remember any scene in the original story where he brought his fiancée for a couple's massage. This was a new, strange kind of friendship born from mutual deviance. The therapist, despite her fear of Scarlett, was a true professional. She applied just the right amount of pressure, kneading the tension from Scarlett's muscles until the room was filled with the she-devil's soft, soul-stirring moans of pleasure. The past few days had truly exhausted her. Asher, do you prefer boys or girls? Scarlett's voice was lazy and drowsy, almost powerless. Perhaps he had let his guard down after talking with her for so long. I like both, but I think I lean more toward girls. Is that so? Scarlett murmured, her eyes half closed, her breathing evening out. The topic had veered wildly off course. Asher realized it and tried to steer the conversation back. Let's talk about something else. Silence. He didn't hear a response. Confused, he turned his head. The therapist next to him whispered, Mr. Vance, Miss Jo has fallen asleep. Asleep? He glanced over at Scarlett, who had drifted off at some point. When she was quiet, the she-devil possessed a unique, indescribable beauty. The domineering aura of a superior was gone, replaced by a simple, elegant grace. Asher sat up, his movements gentle, careful not to make sound. Go get a blanket for her. Number 88 nodded and quickly returned with a light comforter, draping it over Scarlett. Asher yawned and slid off the table. He couldn't stay here any longer. Time to go home and eat. Asher, don't go. The movement of the blanket had startled Scarlett awake. She looked like a frightened rabbit, struggling to open her bloodshot eyes. Her voice was weak, laced with a hint of panic, as she shot out a hand and grabbed his, clutching it tightly. Now Asher was completely baffled. Was she faking it? After a brief internal struggle, he decided to stay. He dismissed the therapists. Scarlett, I'm warning you, don't start anything. I'm not leaving, but you have to let go of my hand, he said, his voice laced with resignation. Scarlett's eyes were already closed again, a faint smile on her lips. She didn't respond, no matter what he said. He tried to pry her fingers off, but she only gripped tighter. This was killing him. He was stuck, standing there like an idiot. He couldn't play on his phone. He couldn't leave. It was incredibly awkward. Her exhaustion was contagious. Asher yawned again and made another attempt to free his hand. Scarlett held fast. He couldn't take it anymore. He slumped to the wooden floor, leaning his back against the massage table, and decided to just take a nap. A few moments later, he, too, was fast asleep. At a private hospital in New York City, in a high-end suite on the inpatient ward, a roar of pure rage echoed through the halls. Asher Vance, the first thing I do when I get out of here is fucking kill you. The bathroom door swung open, and Leo Flynn limped out, his face pale and drawn. Ever since that night at the Midnight Lounge, when he'd drunk from Serafina Hayes' glass, he'd been severely constipated. Today, he'd finally figured out why. Asher had set a trap. He had been the unwitting victim all along. The entire scenario had been engineered by Asher to make him drink that specific glass. The devious bastard. What kind of sick, twisted mind comes up with a plan like that? And, judging by Serafina's reaction that night, she must have been in on it. Leo felt utterly humiliated, all thanks to Asher Vance. The surge of anger ripped open his gunshot wound. The white bandage instantly blossomed with red. Arg! Leo gritted his teeth in pain. Dragon King, calm down. Please calm down. A young man in the room pleaded, dropping to one knee. Seeing the wound reopen, he shot back to his feet. Dragon King, I'll go get a doctor. His name was Manny Marcos, 9th in rank within the Dragon's Den. A Chinese-American from a wealthy and well-connected family, he was utterly devoted to Leo. A moment later, a doctor and nurse rushed in. After a flurry of activity, the bandages were changed. Before leaving, they sternly warned Leo to avoid any emotional distress that could cause the wound to tear again. Lying on the hospital bed, Leo's face was a thundercloud. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Asher was probably laughing his ass off, proud of his little laxative trick. Has Nemesis arrived in New York yet? Leo asked, his voice tight. Manny replied, She's here, awaiting your orders, Dragon King. Leo knew Manny was just being polite. Awaiting his orders? If she were truly loyal, she'd be here at the hospital, kneeling beside Manny. Still, the fact that she was willing to take his assignments was good enough for now. The top 3 operatives in the Dragon's Den were a different breed, elites among elites, and notoriously difficult to control. Without the right incentives and a system of checks and balances, they were ticking time bombs. Leo clenched his fist. Power was the only language that mattered. He needed to master that ancient martial arts discipline as quickly as possible. Only then would his words carry real weight. Good. Tell her to apply for a job at the Vance estate. A maid, a butler, something like that. The closer she gets to Asher, the better. It'll set up my next move. Manny's expression froze. He looked like he wanted to say something, but was afraid of upsetting Leo. Leo saw his hesitation. Manny, you're my right-hand man. Spit it out. Don't be coy. Yes, sir. Manny took a deep breath. Dragon King, Nemesis. She's good at one thing, killing. She doesn't really do anything else. A maid or a butler. I'm afraid she won't be able to get hired. Leo snatched a vase from the bedside table and hurled it against the floor. You think I don't fucking know that? Now isn't the time to kill that worthless degenerate. One wrong move, and everything falls apart. Killing him would be easy, but Lawrence Vance would burn the world down to avenge his son. It would be a major setback in my plan to take over the Vance Corporation. Are you trying to oppose me, too? Manny flinched. Dragon King, never. I just thought, since Nemesis's strength is killing, why don't we let her play to her strengths? Leo's brow furrowed. How? We flipped the script, Manny explained. She's the best killer, which means she can also be the best bodyguard. We create a situation, an opportunity, for her to become that spoiled brat's personal security. Then, whenever you give the word, a single command is all it will take to end his pathetic life. A slow, predatory smile spread across Leo's face. Not bad, Manny. I misjudged you. In the entire Dragon's Den, you're the only one who's truly loyal to me. Manny's eyes lit up. You're too kind, Dragon King. I'm just doing my duty. For some reason, he found Leo's smile incredibly masculine. That's how a real man should smile, he thought. He'd tried to imitate it in the mirror countless times, but could never get it right. Perhaps that was a special perk of being the chosen one. Leo laughed, basking in the praise. If only the other 2 top operatives were as loyal as Manny. His plan to seize the Vance Empire would be that much closer to completion. Seeing the Dragon King laugh, Manny's mood lifted as well. But the next second, joy turned to agony. The freshly changed white bandage bloomed red once again. Doctor, nurse. A short while later, Leo lay back, his face several shades paler. Manny, go tell Nemesis to make her move within the next few days. Yes, Dragon King, Manny said, practically fleeing the room. If Leo had another emotional outburst and his wound tore open again, he had a feeling the blame would land squarely on his shoulders. He wanted no part of that. Night fell. Back at the wellness center, Asher, deep in sleep, felt a tickle on his nose. He swatted at it. It stopped, then started again a moment later. He groggily opened his eyes, his brain still booting up. His vision swam in a focus on a woman, so beautiful she seemed unreal. She was holding a strand of her hair, and when she saw he was awake, her expression mirrored his own. Pure, unadulterated confusion. Except Asher's confusion was mixed with a dawning realization. He'd found the culprit behind his itchy nose. Well, I'll be damned. It was her hair. One generation digs a pit, the next one falls in it. He decided to strike first and seize control of the narrative. Scarlet, what do you think you're doing? The words left his mouth, and then he froze. Wait a minute. Wasn't I sleeping on the floor? A guy really has to protect himself when he's out and about. Faced with the she-devil's mischievous smile, Asher's stomach dropped. He'd seen this look before. A faint scent of her body wash hung in the air. Her flawless face was flushed a delicate pink, as smooth and perfect as a freshly peeled egg. Did I climb up here myself? But did you put me here? Asher asked, taking a deep breath. If it was his fault, he'd own it. If not, he was out of there. Scarlet bit her lip, giving a non-committal reply. Does it matter? Doesn't it? He shot back. She knew exactly what he was thinking. Does it? Is there even a point to this game? I should have never brought you to my happy place. The she-devil's eyes had a magnetic quality. Stare too long, and you'd get pulled in. Better to rip the Band-Aid off quickly. He decided to make a run for it. Just as he started to get up, Scarlet's pale hand shot out and grabbed his. He was completely unprepared. He never imagined she would be so bold as to pull him back down. The position they landed in was awkward. Asher was propped up on his hands, hovering directly over her, face to face. His mind was racing. How she dare? Then again, is there anything the she-devil doesn't dare to do? Woman, you're playing with fire, Asher managed to choke out, the classic line of a cornered villain. The subtext was clear. If you get burned, it's on you. I'm not responsible. The nap had clearly revived Scarlet. Seeing Asher's flustered, deer-in-the-headlights expression, she could no longer control herself. Her slender arms wrapped around his neck, and with a firm tug, she pulled him down. Their lips met with a jolt. The sensation was soft, like jelly. Asher's mind went blank. Whatever. I'm going to be here sooner or later anyway. You might as well have your way with me. No, screw that. I've gone soft. This isn't you, Asher. 15 minutes later. Damn it, she-devil, you're pushing it. You think you could just touch my abs whenever you want? Fine, I'm touching back. Let's see you try to stop me. Hiss. Okay, you win. I'm done. Asher sensed that if this went any further, things would get serious. But this time, Scarlet wasn't about to let him go. They wrestled playfully for another long moment. Finally, he broke free from her grasp, liberated at last. Ahem. Don't push your luck. You really think I won't do something to you? Asher found a spot to sit down, a fire burning in his gut. Standing was too awkward. Sitting was the only way to hide his. Pradik, or so he thought. Scarlet looked at him, her tone a provocative, sultry whisper. Bring it on. Don't just talk the talk. Hiss. Asher's eyelid twitched. He shouldn't have engaged. Every word he spoke to the she-devil was just digging his own grave. The air in the room was thick with tension. He couldn't take it anymore. He stood up with some difficulty, planning to find a shower and douse himself in cold water to calm down. According to the script, he would eventually sleep with her. And while it didn't matter if it was sooner or later, Asher still hoped it would be after they were married, when it was official. That way, he could give her a proper start to their life together. He remembered from his past life that her one hard rule was that they had to be married first. Her ultimatum had been, kill him, kill herself, or get married. She had chosen the third option, enabled by the pre-existing marriage contract between the Vance and Joe families. As he was gathering his clothes, he noticed Scarlet behind him, frozen in place. Too far. He had touched her all over, and yet there was so much about him she didn't know. You seem uncomfortable. Scarlet's voice was suddenly soft. I wonder whose fault that is, he said grumpily. He had no idea what she was planning, but he knew he had to leave. Let me help you. Scarlet's face turned scarlet. Seeing the shocked look in his eyes, she bristled, knowing what he was thinking. Oh, she shot him a harsh glare. There's more than one way to help. You know, aren't we fiancés? Asher wavered. Fiancé. That was a good point, but it wasn't entirely convincing. Seeing him hesitate, Scarlet bit her lip and went straight for the jugular. Is there something wrong with you physically that you don't want people to know about? Oh, you not just say that. This will not stand. Asher's temper flared. An hour later, they emerged from the room, both of them blushing. Do all guys like legs that much? Scarlet asked suddenly. Asher rubbed his nose, embarrassed. You can't generalize. It's a matter of personal taste. He did feel a sliver of regret, but only a tiny one. He convinced himself it was fine. They were getting married eventually, so this was just an early preview of the good parts. Suddenly, Scarlet stopped and bent over, her small hand gently massaging her calf. So tired, she whined. My legs are numb. Someone has no idea how to treat a lady. Asher's face darkened. Okay, he had to own this one. I'll carry you. A victorious smile lit up Scarlet's face. Will it be too much trouble? No. Asher's mouth twitched. He wasn't about to let her get the last word. Let's just call it mutual aid, he added, putting extra emphasis on the word aid. Scarlet's face flushed crimson. She rolled her eyes, but she wasn't one to back down easily. Oh, in that case, we should give each other a lot more mutual aid in the future. Now, it was Asher's turn to be embarrassed. He bent down and swept her up in a princess carry. He had definitely hit his limit for one day. As for any future aid, that could wait. Scarlet smiled sweetly. Seeing Asher flustered seemed to bring her immense joy. In the hallway, they ran into the two therapists from earlier. An indescribable awkwardness hung in the air. Asher nodded a quick greeting, planning to make a swift exit. But Scarlet would never pass up an opportunity to assert her dominance. Excuse me, could you two dears do your big sister a small favor? She asked sweetly. The therapists were indeed a few years younger than her. Number 88 nodded with a tentative smile. Of course, Miss Joe. Just tell us what you need. If they couldn't be Asher's mistresses, at least they could network. An opportunity to have Scarlet Joe owe them a favor was priceless. It's over. The she-devil is about to unleash chaos. Why didn't you two just leave? Asher screamed internally. Scarlet put on a troubled expression. I had some milk sent to the room earlier, but I fumbled the bottle and it spilled all over my Balenciaga stockings. I left them in the room. I was hoping you two could take care of them for me. The two women exchanged a look. This was a job for the cleaning staff, not them. It was obvious what this was. Scarlet was throwing them a bone, a chance to get on her good side. Getting close to Asher was a long shot. He came here purely to relax. But Scarlet was different. Of course, Miss Joe. We'll take care of it right away. Yes, you can count on us, they promised earnestly. Scarlet beamed gratefully. Thank you so much. But will it interfere with your work? They shook their heads vigorously. Not at all. We'll go take care of those Balenciaga stockings right now. They started walking, but at her last words, they broke into a run, each eager to make a good impression. Asher felt like he'd been struck by lightning. It's over. Social suicide. I can never come back to my happy place again. She-devil, you're truly one of a kind. In the parking garage, Scarlet spoke from the passenger seat, a cheerful smile on her face. Let's find a place to eat first, Asher. Then you can take me shopping. Asher knew he was at a disadvantage. There was no escaping tonight. This was the price of a moment's pleasure. You had to think long-term, or you'd end up exactly like him. He offered a couple of token protests before mentally resigning himself to his fate. Later that evening, he regretted it deeply. Shopping with a woman was the most exhausting activity on earth. Most women browsed without buying, or maybe picked up an item or two. Scarlet was the exact opposite. She bought over a dozen outfits from various luxury brands, followed by stockings in every imaginable color. She grabbed 5 pairs of the black ones alone. The whole spectacle left Asher bewildered. Had the Zhou family gone bankrupt? Why was she buying so many clothes? Didn't she know there was always tomorrow? It wasn't the money. $100,000 was pocket change to him. It was the sheer physical labor of carrying everything. His arms were laden with bags of all sizes. The Ferrari's lack of storage space was a real problem. He ended up having to call for a company car just to haul the loot. Mr. Vance, where should I take all this? The young driver asked respectfully. Asher replied without thinking, the Riverside Manor. It was the name of Scarlet's villa. The driver nodded. Just then, Scarlet cut in. Wait, take everything to the Phoenix Apartments, Unit 12, Apartment 1204. The driver looked at Asher, confused. Asher paused for a second, then said, do as she says. The driver gave them a respectful nod and drove off toward the Phoenix Apartments. Asher and the she-devil settled into the Ferrari. The more he thought about it, the stranger it seemed. He knew the Phoenix Apartments. It was a bit far from the city center. He couldn't understand why Scarlet would give up her villa to live in a more remote apartment complex. Could the she-devil really be broke? On the road, his curiosity got the better of him. Did you go bankrupt or something? Why leave a villa downtown to live so far away? The moment the words were out, he realized how stupid they sounded. Anyone could go bankrupt, but not Scarlett Jo. The future queen of commerce was far too shrewd. Give her $1 million, and in a year, she'd turn it into $100 million. A genius like that doesn't just go broke. But in a way, she was pretty close to it right now. For the past few weeks, she had been either cooking for herself or ordering cheap takeout. Immersed in her work, she mostly relied on delivery, eating takeout for nearly every meal. A normal person might not think anything of it, but going from luxury to frugality was a difficult transition. Scarlett had been born with a silver spoon in her mouth. For any of the great families, the idea of a Jo heiress eating takeout was preposterous. Yet, that's exactly what she'd been doing. Scarlett gave a self-deprecating smile. Her almond eyes twinkled as she looked at him, shrugging playfully. I did. I'm officially broke. Are you going to support me? Asher assumed she was joking. I'll pass. The Vance family is a humble temple. We can't afford to house a goddess like you. Scarlett giggled. My daily expenses aren't that high. I'm not picky about food. Simple meals are fine. As long as I'm full, I'm happy. The she-devil standards are that low? Just like me. Is this for real? Asher was skeptical. The books described her as adaptable, able to endure what others could not. In ancient times, she would have been an Empress Wu Zetian. Thinking back to his previous life, he hadn't had much time with her after their wedding. He had been so focused on fast-forwarding the plot that he'd met his end before they'd even been together for half a month. Life had been a whirlwind of sorting out his affairs, ensuring Lawrence and Eleanor would be taken care of after he was gone. Asher, I'm serious, Scarlett said, her tone shifting. What if I really did go broke? Asher paused. After a long moment, he said, I'd steal catalytic converters to support you. I'd buy stocks to support you. But with the black hole of the main female lead still looming, he couldn't say what he really felt. He had to fill that hole first. Only after they were married, much later in the story, could he afford to be honest. And even then, only partially, because by that point, he would be saying goodbye to this world all over again. The original novel, his past life, the present, to hell with all of them. You always want what you can't have, and take for granted what you do. The greatest loneliness in the world wasn't being invincible. It was love, but as long as his will was strong, none of it mattered. The quiet atmosphere was broken by a peal of delightful laughter. Scarlett had gotten the answer she wanted. All her sacrifices had been worth it. Asher, you don't actually think I'd go steal catalytic converters for you, do you? Sure, why not? Just try not to get caught. I'll be your lookout. A husband and wife team. Who said anything about marrying you? We haven't even set a date. Ahem. Aren't you afraid of me keeping? Serafina Hayes on the side. I told you, I don't care how many you keep. Do you need me to sponsor your affair with her? And you call this being broke? Scarlett gave the idiot a look and shrugged her shoulders. That's right. Broke, penniless, weak, and helpless. She paused, her voice dripping with a fatal charm. Why don't you just take me home with you? Downstairs at the Phoenix Apartments. This is as far as I go, Asher said. Scarlett looked at him and smiled. Won't you come up for a bit? Asher rubbed his nose. It's late. Maybe next time. She shot him a playful look. Afraid I'll eat you alive? Her heart began to beat a little faster as she remembered the things that had made her blush earlier. Eat me how? Asher decided it was best not to take the bait. Silence was golden. Silence was salvation. Give the she-devil an inch, and she'd create a universe of possibilities. That was a gamble he wasn't willing to take. Scarlett giggled, deciding not to tease the flustered Asher any further. She got out of the car. He needed time to process things, and so did she. It was best to give each other some space. Besides, Scarlett was confident that no other vixen could compete with her handiwork. She could give them a handicap of both hands and still win easily. It was the kind of confidence that came from knowing you were beautiful. If she didn't have that, she might as well just hand Asher over. Phew. Watching the she-devil walk away, Asher let out a sigh of relief and drove off. The next day, around noon, Asher was holed up in his room, playing video games. He hadn't set foot outside. Normally, he'd be at the office, happily slacking off. But not these last few days. He was afraid the she-devil might launch a surprise attack on his office. While it was usually just him and his secretary, Jasmine, if Scarlett happened to show up at an opportune moment, there would be fireworks. And he definitely didn't want fireworks. BZZ, his phone vibrated on the desk. He picked it up curiously. It was a call from Riley's song. A sweet, soft voice came through the speaker. Ash, I'm in New York. The name jogged his memory. He abandoned his game, ignoring the barrage of messages from his teammates demanding to know why he'd gone AFK. Which station are you at? I'll come pick you up. Riley. Ash, I actually got here yesterday. Asher, what? Yesterday? Why didn't you tell me sooner? Riley, sorry about that. I wanted to get my enrollment sorted out and find a place to stay first. That way I could relax and have fun without worry. Asher, you were worried about housing? You should have just told me. Facepalm emoji. My family's company owns countless hotels. You could stay wherever you want. Silly girl, it's not like I'm short on cash. Riley, underline. Haha. There you go again, Ash. Next you're going to tell me you're Asher Vance, the heir to the Vance Corporation. Asher had never told Riley his true identity. He'd only mentioned that his family ran a few decent companies. For one, he didn't see the point. And two, even if he did tell her, it was unlikely she'd believe him or even grasp the scale of the Vance Corporation. For years, Riley's entire world had been her studies. She rarely went online unless it was for research or to play games and chat with him. She was completely oblivious to celebrity gossip and news. If you asked her who the biggest star in the country was, she couldn't name more than a couple. Their relationship was like that of online friends who had never met. Asher shook his head with a smile. She still doesn't believe me. I wonder what her expression will be when she sees me. Asher, you're on campus now, right? At our alma mater? Riley, yes. Riley, wait. Alma mater? Ash, are we alumni? Asher. He, carrot, call me upperclassman. I'll explain when I see you. Talk soon. Hey. He, see you soon, Ash. Drive safe. Humming a tune, Asher went to the garage. To avoid scaring Riley, he chose a relatively low-key sports car, one that only cost a couple of $1 million. But even if he wanted to be discreet, his license plate wouldn't allow it. All his plates were easily recognizable, a string of 6S, 8s, or 7S. They were easy to get, as long as you were willing to pay. In his past life, this was the point where his conflict with the protagonist, Leo Flynn, had escalated into open warfare. He'd been so bogged down with problems that he never got the chance to meet Riley. In the end, they never even saw each other once. You wouldn't call it a regret, exactly. Sponsoring Riley's education had been a spur-of-the-moment decision, an act of pure whimsy. He never expected anything in return. At Columbia University, inside a women's dormitory, Riley Song was staring at her phone with a sweet, goofy smile. Her two new roommates saw it. They had also come to New York from out of state, and the three of them had bonded instantly. They'd only known each other for a day, but they found they had plenty to talk about. Sometimes you just click with people. Riley, you're smiling like an idiot. Did you get a boyfriend? One of her roommates, Maddie, asked bluntly. The other, Shannon, leaned in, her interest piqued. Oh, really? Which lucky bastard has such good taste, snatching up our business school's future campus bell before classes even start? Is he from here or another student? Spill the tea, Riley. Riley's face flushed red as she put her phone away. Shannon, I'm not any kind of belle. Don't say that. Maddie chimed in with a grin. That's right. Our precious Riley isn't just some campus belle. Just as Shannon thought Maddie was about to play devil's advocate, Maddie continued. Someone as beautiful as Riley isn't just a campus belle. She's the next queen of Columbia. That's more like it. Riley's face grew even redder. She didn't care about titles like belle or queen. People had called her that in middle and high school, and it had been nothing but trouble. Boys were constantly confessing their love, trying all sorts of tricks to get close to her. She wasn't a fan of the attention. Besides, since arriving on campus yesterday, she'd seen plenty of other beautiful girls. In her eyes, her two roommates were just as pretty. She wanted to change the subject. You two are so annoying. I'm not talking about this anymore. I have to go out later. Maddie and Shannon exchanged a look. The next second, a collective gasp filled the dorm room. No way. Riley, did some guy actually get you? No way. Riley, did some guy actually get you? Riley's delicate face was beet red. She was so nervous, she couldn't help but clench her fists, stammering. You two ask so many questions. Maddie and Shannon paused. You know why? Oh, she's blushing? Let's see this. Riley was getting a little flustered. It was probably her first time going on a real date with a guy, and she was nervous enough to explode. Maddie and Shannon exchanged a glance. Shannon nodded, walked over to Riley, and gently patted her on the shoulder. Riley, do you need me to help you with your makeup? When a girl meets a guy she likes, she has to look her absolute best. It's essential for making a good first impression. Shannon and Maddie came from middle-class families. They loved playing with makeup and styling themselves. While they weren't professional artists, they could certainly handle a light, flattering look. They had to admit, Riley was stunning without any makeup, but what girl would turn down the chance to be even more beautiful, especially on a date? Riley hesitated for a moment, then nodded like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. Maddie shot Shannon a triumphant, I told you so look. Heh, women, they say one thing, but their bodies say another. Shannon, I'll help too, Maddie said, rolling up her sleeves with a smile. Great. Let's hurry. Grab that makeup kit on the table, Shannon instructed. On it. Even though Riley didn't know much about cosmetics, she could tell from the packaging that the kit was expensive. She panicked. Shannon, this is too much. I can't use this. What's the big deal? It would take me ages to use it all myself, Shannon said, placing her hands on Riley's shoulders to keep her from escaping. Maddie chimed in with a grin. If you feel bad, you can use mine instead. Maddie, I'm warning you, don't try to steal my client. Carrot. Shannon shot her a glare and began expertly sorting through her tools. Maddie just shrugged and stood by to assist. As they worked on Riley's makeup, both Shannon and Maddie were reeling internally. As fellow women, why is there such a huge difference? A simple shaping of the eyebrows, a light dusting of foundation, and Riley's beauty was instantly elevated to a whole new level. But something was still missing. Finally, Shannon made a bold decision. She took out her prized, unopened Dior lipstick, one she hadn't even brought herself to use yet, and offered it to Riley. Of course, Riley refused, but with some gentle coaxing and a bit of playful deception from Shannon and Maddie, she finally gave in. The two of them had their own selfish motives for this, of course. A little while later, a goddess stared back from the mirror. It was a beauty entirely different from Seraphina's icy elegance, Scarlett's fiery allure, or Chloe's dark charm. It was a beauty that radiated youthful vitality. As the makeup artists, Shannon and Maddie were stunned. They had expected her to look good, but the real-life visual impact was staggering. Oh my God. Beautiful. You know it. It's a good thing my skills are top-notch. Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeing this supreme campus goddess. What do you think, Maddie? Aren't I amazing? Shannon shamelessly took all the credit. Maddie scoffed. Shannon, have some shame, will you? It's obviously because our Riley is naturally gorgeous. What does it have to do with you? Shannon's eye twitched. So I get no credit at all? Seeing that a fight was about to break out, Riley quickly intervened, playing the peacemaker. After a few minutes, she finally managed to calm him down. Her own cheeks were flushed, her face so dewy it looked like you could squeeze water from it. She was ready to go. Seeing her about to leave, Shannon suddenly spoke up. Riley, do you mind if we come with you? I need to buy some daily necessities. Maddie rolled her eyes. Don't listen to her. She just wants to see what your boyfriend looks like. You have to guard against fire, thieves, and best friends. Be careful, Riley. Shannon's mouth twitched. Maddie, aren't you curious too? Maddie nodded. Of course I am. Then why are you sabotaging me? Shannon was exasperated. Maddie grinned. You stay here. I'll go with Riley. You witch, I'm going to strangle you. Shannon lunged playfully at her. Riley could see right through their terrible acting. She sighed. All right. If you want to see what my boyfriend looks like, you can both come with me. She was in their debt now, having used their expensive makeup. Riley accepted her fate. Besides, she had never seen what Ash looked like either. Meeting an online friend for the first time was nerve-wracking. Having two friends along might actually be a good thing. Their mission accomplished, Shannon and Maddie exchanged a triumphant smile. The three of them grabbed their bags and headed out. Outside the main gates of Columbia University, cars streamed by and students milled about. The three girls quickly drew a lot of attention. To be precise, Riley, standing between Shannon and Maddie, drew all the attention. Whoa, a new face. This year's freshman class is something else. Looks like the campus queen title has already been claimed. Damn, her legs are so pale they're practically glowing. I'm in love. I hope she's in the art department. Get out of here. I've already seen a few beauties in the art department. Why should you guys get all the good ones? She has that perfect first love face. Looks like applying to Columbia was the best decision of my life. Be my girlfriend. Be my girlfriend. Be my girlfriend. Please, God, just this once. Human nature is what it is. Good grades are one thing, but no one is a saint. An absolute beauty will always turn heads. It's easy to be dismissive of what you can't have, but when a true goddess appears before your eyes, everyone succumbs. If you could look twice, you definitely would. Riley was a perfect example. While Shannon and Maddie were attractive, being stared at by so many people, including handsome upperclassmen and hot guys from their own year, was a new experience. This was their moment in the spotlight, and they were basking in Riley's reflected glory. Riley, what kind of car do you think your boyfriend will drive to pick you up? Maddie asked curiously. Shannon blinked, equally curious. I don't know, Riley replied with a wry smile. This was their first time meeting in person. Honestly, she had no idea what kind of car Ash would be driving. Shannon frowned. No way. It's going to be so awkward for you if he rolls up on a city bike. If it's Ash, I wouldn't care if he came on a city bike, Riley said firmly. Maddie and Shannon exchanged a look and shook their heads. It was true what they said. A girl in love has an IQ of 0. No matter how beautiful she was, the moment love entered the picture, she was a lost cause. Unable to bear their pitying stares, Riley blushed and shuffled away. Ash wasn't even her boyfriend yet. It was just wishful thinking on her part. But she believed that you had to create your own happiness. As long as their social statuses weren't worlds apart, she was confident that she could use her knowledge to help him grow his family's business. Just then, a deep, captivating roar, the kind only a supercar could produce, cut through the air. A stunning blue convertible Lamborghini Aventador pulled up in front of them. Behind the wheel sat a handsome young man. The surrounding students erupted in gasps. Holy crap, a whale. That's the new Lamborghini Aventador. That's like over 600 grand. Dude, think bigger. 600 grand is the base model price. If I'm not mistaken, that's the top tier version. With all the options and fees, you're looking at $1 million bucks, easy. $1 million. How many years would I have to work at a big firm to earn that much? Don't complain. Some people are born in the penthouse. We were born in the basement. You can't be jealous of that. It wasn't like there were no sports cars in the Columbia parking lot. Plenty of rich students and even some professors drove them. But a car worth over $1 million was a rare sight, even in a city like New York. The three girls stared for a moment, mesmerized. Then, Maddie and Shannon started jumping up and down with excitement, grabbing a stunned Riley. Riley, did you hear that? Your boyfriend's car is worth $1 million. We've hit the jackpot. I have a rich roommate. Our weekend Frappuccino budget is secure. $1 million. How many zeros is that? 1, 2. So many zeros. Oh my God. Compared to her ecstatic friends, Riley just looked dazed. That's right, dazed. If Ash had shown up in a car worth 1 or 200,000, she would have been fine. She would have been prepared to work even harder to become his indispensable partner in business, to slowly close the gap between them. But a car worth $1 million, just for a casual drive? The blow was devastating. It felt like her dream had just shattered. This was starting on impossible difficulty. The young man seemed to be enjoying the envious stares and sour comments from the crowd. He looked at Riley, his face radiating confidence. Hey, you must be a freshman, interested in getting to know each other. Few girls in the world could refuse a ride in a top-of-the-line supercar. The old saying was true. It's better to cry in a sports car than to laugh on a bicycle. With his looks and his wealth, the young man was absolutely certain of his success. In an instant, all three girls wore the same baffled expression, especially Maddie and Shannon. What the hell? We thought this was Riley's boyfriend. All that excitement for nothing. The embarrassment was crushing. This was social suicide. No way. Yeah, Riley, this isn't your boyfriend. My happiness is gone. The two lamented. A sunny smile bloomed on Riley's face, a smile sweeter than a first love. The young man stared, captivated, thinking he had her in the bag. But her next words shattered his fantasy. Not interested. The young man's expression froze. If you're not interested, why are you smiling? What's so damn funny? Someone in the crowd recognized him. Hey, that's Evan Lee, a junior. If it's him, then $1 million car makes sense. A freshman asked, Who's Evan Lee? The other student laughed. You must be from out of state. Evan is the future heir of the Lee family. And the Lee family in New York is a big deal, a second-tier powerhouse. Some of the girls in the crowd looked on with envy. Sometimes you didn't have to be born rich. If you were born beautiful enough, you could still make it. Evan coughed awkwardly, undeterred. Not interested now, that's fine. You'll be eventually. Let's get acquainted. I'm Evan Lee, and you are beautiful. Picking up girls required a thick skin. Evan had been with plenty of beautiful women, but Riley was the most stunning he had ever seen. He wasn't about to give up so easily. Riley's smile vanished. She shook her head, unwilling to engage with him further. The knowledge that he wasn't Ash brought her an unprecedented wave of relief. It's one thing to say you don't care about status, but deep down, you know when a gap is too wide to be bridged by hard work alone. Shannon and Maddie swallowed hard. Evan was definitely their type, but he clearly wasn't interested in them. Seeing that Riley remained unmoved only fueled Evan's desire to possess her. He continued his shameless advances. Riley was getting annoyed. She walked over to another spot to wait, her long, beautiful legs carrying her away. Shannon and Maddie called her name and hurried after her. At the same time, another engine roared to life. A sleek white Porsche 911 pulled up right in front of the three girls. The convertible top was down, and the devastatingly handsome man inside smiled at them. Hey ladies, need a ride? All three girls' eyes locked on Asher's face. In terms of looks, he left Evan Lee in the dust by a country mile. Not even counting the charm boost from the system, his natural features were already top tier. Now, he was on a whole other level. Thump, thump. Shannon and Maddie's hearts felt like they were about to leap out of their chests. Their eyes were practically glued to Asher's face. So handsome. This is the man of our dreams. There was an approachable warmth about him, and his voice sounded so much like that important person. Faced with Asher's invitation, Riley's cheeks flushed, but she rationally took a step back, assuming he was just another guy like Evan. Bang! The door of the Lamborghini slammed shut as Evan stormed out, his face etched with anger. Someone dared to move in on a woman he had his eye on? The nerve! He glanced dismissively at the car. A Porsche 911? Even the top-spec model was only $300,000 or $400,000. Industrial garbage. In his circle, that was nothing. Hey, buddy, ever heard of first come, first served? You're crossing a line, Evan said, his nose in the air. You really think you can pick up girls in that piece of junk? Go home and get a real car. He's right. That car is nothing compared to Evan's $1 million ride. They're in different leagues. If I were her, I'd definitely choose Evan's car. Hee, $1 million Lamborghini versus a Porsche 911? No contest. The fawning comments from some of the girls in the crowd went straight to Evan's head. He puffed out his chest, not even bothering to look Asher in the eye. So what if he was rich? There were levels to this game. If you're on a lower tier, you shouldn't be out here embarrassing yourself. Just as Evan was basking in his glory, the crowd erupted. Damn, my perspective was too narrow. I've been thinking all wrong. What's going on? That Porsche 911 might be cheaper than Evan's car, but its license plate alone is something Evan could never get. At this reminder, everyone's attention shifted to the license plate. A moment later, another wave of shock rippled through the crowd. Huh, NYC 999. Holy crap, a string of nines. That's insane. But what does a vanity plate really mean? You really don't get it, do you? That plate means it's Asher Vance's car. Oh my God, my idol is at Columbia. No way. The students, both male and female, instantly turned into gushing fans. The girls especially knew that catching Asher Vance's meant catching the golden ticket. Everything they learned in school was abstract. This was real life. The arrogant expression on Evan's face morphed into one of pure terror. He rubbed his eyes and looked closely at the driver. His blood ran cold. He had just kicked a steel plate. Mr. Vance, I didn't know it was you. Asher ignored him. Being recognized was annoying, but he wasn't trying to hide. The real problem was Riley. Her mouth was hanging open, and she was staring at him as if he were a ghost. This had just gotten a lot more complicated. How did Asher recognize her? He'd heard Shannon and Maddie call her name as he drove up with the top down. He got out of the car, walked past the terrified Evan, and went straight to Riley. The stunned expressions on the three girls' faces amused him. He decided to tease them a bit. So, beautiful. Are you sure you don't want that ride? Riley's large eyes were wide with questions. Are you really Ash? Asher Vance? She asked, her voice hollow. A feeling of despair washed over her. The gap was too vast. This wasn't a funny joke. Asher didn't notice her change in mood. Yeah, the one and only. The real deal. Maddie and Shannon were ecstatic. Who would have thought their roommate's boyfriend was the national husband himself? That she had managed to land the son of a billionaire through online dating? They needed to learn her secret. Riley, your boyfriend is here. Don't keep him waiting. Yeah, go on your date, they urged, pushing her forward, barely containing their own excitement. Boyfriend? Asher was completely lost. What boyfriend? When did he get a girlfriend? Why was he, the person involved, the last to know? Riley forced a pained smile. Maddie, Shannon, Ash isn't my boyfriend. I was lying to you. The higher the hope, the greater the disappointment. If Asher had been from a second-tier family, Riley could have still told herself she could make it work, that she could strive to catch up. But he was the national husband. The blow was too great. The story of the handsome prince and the cinder girl was a fairy tale for children. Real life was far more cruel. Asher finally understood. He played along. It wasn't like he hadn't had a few girlfriends in name only during his school days. What was one more? It was all meaningless anyway. Don't tell anyone that Riley and I met online, Asher said in a low voice, just for the three of them to hear. Shannon and Maddie's expressions cycled through disappointment, confusion, and finally, joy. They nodded vigorously, promising not to breathe a word. The posts they had been composing for their social media were instantly deleted from their minds. Ash, thank you for covering for me, Riley said with a self-deprecating smile, then quickly explained the situation to her roommates in a hushed tone. If one lie had to be covered by another, then the lie about Asher being her online boyfriend was like a Russian nesting doll, with layers upon layers of deception. Asher smiled, respecting her choice. Who didn't have a bit of a competitive streak in their youth? He had been prepared to take a risk and show off a little for her, but she didn't want it. More and more people were gathering, taking pictures with their phones. Riley said goodbye to her roommates and left with Asher. As for Evanly, who was still begging for forgiveness, Asher paid him no mind. He didn't understand these rich kids. Sure, he was the villain, but he wasn't a rabid dog, biting everyone he saw. On the road, Riley was silent, lost in thought. This isn't going to work, Asher thought. She has to face reality eventually. He tried to start a conversation. Riley, now that you're in New York, is there anything you want to eat? Riley forced a smile that looked more painful than a grimace. Ash, just take me anywhere. It's fine. Even with her high IQ, she was still just a freshman, away from home for the first time. Coming from a poor, single-parent family, she had never learned how to hide her true feelings. Oh, Asher nodded. She just needs time to adjust. Screw adjusting. Damn it, I was careless. What happened to, I don't care no matter what. Was it all just talk? I underestimated the impact of reality. I should have just done what I did in my past life and not met her at all. In the passenger seat, Riley's large, innocent eyes slowly began to shine again. Riley's song felt a strange knot of tension tighten in her stomach. She had to be sure she hadn't imagined it. Looking at Asher, she suddenly spoke, her voice soft and sweet, laced with a hint of a plea. Ash, I'm kind of craving dim sum. Could we? What kind of monster could say no to that? Asher smiled. Of course. You're the star of the show today. Just tell me where you want to go. Finally, the kid's getting with the program, he thought, a wave of satisfaction washing over him. I wasn't worried about you having demands. I was worried about you not having any. He was thrilled. It was infinitely better for Riley to ask for things instead of sitting there in awkward silence. But Asher wasn't the only one who was happy. Riley was ecstatic, fighting the urge to lean over and kiss him right then and there. Just moments ago, she had been drowning in despair, ready to bury her love for him deep in her heart forever. But then, by some miracle, fate had dealt her the ultimate ace. She could hear his thoughts. Riley had no idea how it was possible. But did it even matter? Hearing the thoughts of the man she loved. Didn't that mean she actually had a chance to win him over? Overcome with excitement, a blush crept up her cherubic cheeks, and a sweet, irrepressible smile played on her lips. Asher glanced at the rearview mirror and saw the pure joy radiating from her face. Her happiness was infectious, and he felt his own mood lift. Soon, they were seated in a high-end dim sum restaurant in Soho. Order whatever you want. Don't worry about saving me money, Asher said with a grin. The young woman nodded shyly, her slender fingers tracing the items on the elaborate menu. The sheer number of dishes was overwhelming, making her head spin. Besides, the point of this meal wasn't the food, it was Asher. With a slightly embarrassed look, she pushed the menu back toward him. Ash, why don't you order? Sure thing, he agreed, proceeding to order several of the restaurant's signature dishes and a few delicate snacks. He was about to order more when Riley stopped him, reminding him not to waste food. They could always order more later. Did you get all the daily essentials you need? Anything you're missing? We can hit up a Target later and get you fully stocked, Asher offered with a smile. He really should drag Chloe here to see this. This was how a normal sister was supposed to act. Shy, a little flustered, needing her brother to look out for her. The thought of Chloe, who was always ready to throw a punch, chase him around the house, or pick a fight, made him sigh. There wasn't a single normal sibling dynamic between them. I got everything, Riley stammered, snapping out of daze. Asher had a sister? Did that mean she had a future sister-in-law to win over? If she wanted to become a part of Asher's life, to be his woman, she needed his family to accept her. Riley felt a sense of urgency. She had to start now, and every second counted. It didn't matter that she didn't know everything about him. His thoughts would give her the answer she needed. But what intrigued her most wasn't his family. It was the previous life he'd thought about before. Could something so incredible actually exist? And why couldn't she and Asher have met in that past life? The fact that he was here, talking to her, implied something terrible. The Asher of that past life must have died for some unknown reason. Riley's mind, sharp and analytical, began piecing together the fragments. I have to know what he went through, she thought desperately. But that was a topic she couldn't probe, not even subtly. Any mention of it would surely make him suspicious. Before long, a waiter began delivering an array of delicious dishes to their table. The spread was vast and magnificent. Seeing the girl staring blankly at the food, Asher picked up his chopsticks and chuckled. Don't just look at it. Dig in. He placed a translucent, perfect-looking shrimp dumpling into her bowl. Riley's face flushed again. She picked up her own chopsticks and took a bite. The fresh, savory flavor of the shrimp was perfectly preserved. It's so good, she murmured in appreciation. You have to try one, Ash. On pure instinct, she picked up a dumpling and placed it in his bowl. Good food was only meaningful when shared with the one you loved. Asher froze for a second, completely surprised by her forwardness. Hey Ash, was that too? You know, Riley stammered, mortified. Being near him, hearing his thoughts, it was all so overwhelming that she'd forgotten herself. Girls are supposed to be reserved. If he thought she was some kind of shameless, forward girl, she might as well just jump off a bridge. It's fine, Asher said, laughing it off. Uh-huh, I was just thinking about something. Don't worry about it, let's eat. Riley is so sweet, so considerate. He thought, Chloe used to be so cute, a perfect little sister. It's a shame she went off the rails in middle school. Then again, she's the protagonist. A close relationship with her brother would just become unnecessary baggage for her down the line. For both of us, cutting ties early is probably for the best. A clean break. Riley's eyes clouded with confusion. It was the first time she had heard that word, protagonist. What did it mean? How could his own sister be a burden to him? Was Chloe somehow connected to his death in the past life? Riley felt 1,000 questions bloom in her mind, turning everything about Asher into an enigma she was desperate to solve. Riley, you're a finance major, right? Asher asked, breaking the silence. It took her a second to catch up. Yes, Ash. He took a sip of soup. You need a good laptop, then. 4 tracking stocks, analyzing data, research. Riley shook her head so fast it was a blur. No, I can't. Ash, you've done too much for me already. I absolutely can't accept that. Asher just smiled and spun a casual lie. Think of it as an investment. It comes with interest. When you make it big, you can pay me back, principal and all. It's just an advance on your future success. In reality, he had no intention of ever asking for anything back, but he knew it was the only way she would accept. Besides, his inner voice added, if I don't spend this money, it'll just get snatched up by the protagonist, Leo Flynn, anyway. Might as well put it to good use. Riley heard every single word. Another new term, protagonist, and a name, Leo Flynn. That must be the man who killed her, Ash. The thought ignited a firestorm of rage within her. That man, Leo Flynn, was unforgivable. He deserved to be drawn and quartered, to die 1,000 deaths. And even that wouldn't be enough to quell the fury burning in her heart. After their meal, under the pretense of just browsing, Asher cajoled Riley into a trip to B&H Photo Video, where he guided her toward the latest high-performance laptops. He thought he had successfully persuaded her, but in truth, Riley had already agreed in her heart. Anything to spend more time with him, to hear more of the thoughts that were slowly revealing his world to her. His thoughts were unguarded, spoken without intent, but for her, they were everything. Asher tried to buy her a top-of-the-line $5,000 custom rig, but Riley adamantly refused, insisting it was far too expensive. He relented, but set his bottom line at a still extravagant $2,500 model. Though reluctant, Riley didn't argue further. Time was short, the mission critical. She felt like the clock was ticking, and she had to do something to prevent Asher from dying again in this lifetime. He himself seemed to have no fear of death, almost as if he were welcoming it. But Riley wouldn't allow it. She refused to let the man she loved walk toward his demise again. The her from the past life must have been in utter despair. This time, she would not repeat that tragedy. After the electronics store, they went to a supermarket where Asher bought her a power strip, a mountain of snacks and desserts, and several cartons of milk. A finance major required brain fuel, he reasoned. He found himself enjoying the simple domesticity of it all. It felt like sending his own sister off to college. Would Chloe ever let him do this for her? Not a chance. He vividly remembered the night before she was supposed to leave for school. She had stormed into his room and threatened him. If I see you on my send-off tomorrow, you're dead. He had actually wanted to make a small effort to mend their fractured relationship. But after that, forget it. It would have been asking for humiliation. So Asher stayed home and slept in. Around noon, Chloe had returned like a hurricane, kicked his bedroom door clean off its hinges, and, for reasons he still didn't understand, proceeded to beat the hell out of him. Luckily, he'd been fast. He took a few punches before bolting out of there, leaving her fuming. After that whole fiasco, Chloe had abruptly decided not to attend college in the States at all, opting to study abroad instead. Time flew by, and evening approached. At Riley's request, Asher drove her back to the Columbia University campus. Are you sure you don't want to get dinner with me? Riley shook her head, a little embarrassed. No, I'm going to eat with my roommates later. Right. I still owe you that trip to Disneyland, you know? Are you free tomorrow? Asher asked with a smile. Riley considered it, fighting down the powerful urge to say yes. I'm sorry, Ash. I'm busy for the next few days. It was the first time she had ever lied to him. Her eyes darted away, unable to meet his gaze. Asher didn't think anything of it. He remembered how hectic the first week of college was. Let me help you carry this stuff up to your dorm. It's too much for one person. Riley gave a strained smile and quickly refused. Thanks, Ash, but it's okay. I already called my roommates to come down. They'll be here any second. Was he insane? Let him come upstairs? She had no desire to become the center of campus gossip. Besides, letting a guy as ridiculously handsome as Asher into an all-girls dorm would be like throwing a lamb to the wolves. All right, Asher said, holding up his hands in surrender. But call me if you can't manage. A genuine, happy smile spread across Riley's face. Okay, you're so sweet, Ash. A few moments later, Maddie and Shannon appeared. Riley and her roommates gathered her things and headed into the school. Asher watched them go before getting in his car and driving away. 2 more days passed. Under immense pressure from his father, Lawrence, Asher tearfully bid farewell to his blissful life as a shut-in and reluctantly returned to Vance Corporation to work. He figured the she-devil had probably had enough time to cool down. And besides, with so many people around the office, would she really dare to try anything? She wasn't that crazy, was she? Asher walked through the halls, on high alert, but as he neared the general manager's office, there was no sign of Scarlet Joe. He let out a sigh of relief. Yes, back to the good life. Flirt with the secretary during the day, unwind after work, then head home. A perfect routine. He was about to step into his office when he saw 2 women standing outside the door. He recognized both of them. One was his secretary, Jasmine Jiang. The other was Anya Ivanova. Oh yes, he thought, a grin spreading across his face. The plot is here. Looks like the organization hasn't given up on me after all. He quickened his pace, walking toward the stunningly cold beauty. If Serafina Hayes' coldness was that of a glacial mountain, this woman's was the chilling edge of a honed blade. Even though she hit it well, Asher recognized the aura instantly. Killing edge? What a load of crap. She's a total ray of sunshine. Seeing Asher approach, Jasmine's face lit up, and she hurried over. Mr. Vance, we have a strange visitor today. This woman says she wants to apply to be your personal bodyguard. I've tried to tell her we're not hiring, but she won't leave. She's been here for days. Asher nodded, understanding completely. He wanted to tell Jasmine, standard operating procedure, don't panic, but she wouldn't get it. And she didn't need to know the inside story. His gaze fell on Anya, his eyes filled with appreciation. Her long black hair was tied back in a simple, cute ponytail. Her face was a perfect oval, her eyebrows arching with a fierce energy that she kept veiled. But you could tell that all it would take was a single look to unleash an intimidating, commanding presence. At 5'9", she was tall for a woman, and her powerful, muscular legs only accentuated her height. Her body could only be described with one word: phenomenal. A devilishly hot figure. He instinctively glanced at his own secretary for comparison. Both women were gorgeous, but Anya's physique was on another level. As an assassin, she was constantly training, and her workouts were far more demanding than anything you could do in a gym. She easily outclassed Jasmine in that department. Asher looked at her, suppressing his excitement. This was how they had met in the last life, too. Not in his office, but outside somewhere. The details didn't matter. The important thing was that she was here. You want to be my bodyguard? Yes. The woman nodded, her voice devoid of any emotion. Damn, the same familiar vibe, he thought. Still so concise, no nonsense. Asher grinned. Well, aren't you just my type? What's your name? She paused for a second before replying. Anya Ivanova. So, do I test her, or just hire her on the spot like last time? Asher hesitated. Just letting her in without some kind of trial run seemed suspicious, especially with Jasmine watching. A little bit of theater was probably in order. Jasmine, do me a favor and go downstairs, he said with a smile. Call my security team up here. Jasmine glanced from Asher to Anya. All of them, sir. Asher thought for a moment. Yeah, bring them all. This was the perfect opportunity to dismiss the bodyguards his parents had hired for him. They were elites, sure, but they were useless against someone trained in an ancient martial arts discipline. They would get wiped out instantly. Keeping them on the payroll was a massive, pointless expense. He could be spending that money on ear-cleaning spas. Yes, Mr. Vance. Jasmine nodded and clicked away on her heels. Meanwhile, Anya's mind was reeling. As one of the top assassins in the world, she was certain she hadn't misheard that inner voice. Last time? Did that mean they knew each other? While Jasmine was rounding up the men, Anya looked Asher directly in the eye. Have we met before? The question caught Asher off guard. His expression froze. Oh, for God's sake, don't you start going crazy too, he thought. We have met, but that was in a past life. I don't think so, Asher said with a natural smile, masking his inner awkwardness. Ms. Ivanova, this is our first meeting, but if you want to skip the test, that's fine. I can hire you as my personal bodyguard right now. I see. I must have been mistaken, Anya replied, her gaze retracting. Her voice was calm. No, let's do the test. Inside, however, she was just as stunned as Asher. Even for a seasoned killer, the mention of a mystical concept like a past life was shocking, just as it had been for Cassie Lee. Seeing that Anya had dropped the subject, Asher unconsciously rubbed his nose, breathing a silent sigh of relief. Okay, this one isn't completely unhinged. Good to know. The two of them waited in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Before long, Jasmine returned with 7 tall, broad-shouldered men in black suits. The bodyguards, hearing that someone was trying to take their job, were spoiling for a fight. The pay at Vance Corporation was several times the industry standard for a job that was usually a cakewalk. It was a golden ticket, and they weren't about to let someone steal it. Mr. Vance, you were looking for us, said the lead bodyguard, a man built like a truck. Let's call him Ox. Asher nodded and gave them a brief rundown of the situation, then stepped aside to enjoy the show. Specifically, the show of his own bodyguards getting completely demolished. I got this, Ox, one of the younger guys, Biff, sneered, cracking his knuckles. He looked Anya up and down with contempt. This little thing? She wants to take our jobs? She must have a death wish. Go for it, Ox agreed. Letting one of the junior guys go first was perfect. It gave the rest of them a chance to observe. Their faces were etched with disdain. It wasn't that they were looking down on her, but come on. If a man had challenged them, fine. But a woman? An impossibly beautiful one at that? Was she really here to be a bodyguard? The serious kind, anyway. If she was applying for the other kind of personal services, they'd gladly step aside. But she was here for a fight. The bodyguard, Biff, smirked at her. Listen, lady, fists don't have eyes. You can still back down now. I'd hate to mess up that pretty face of yours. If she'd been ugly, he would have already started swinging. Anya ignored him and looked over at Asher. Do I have to pay for anything I break? Asher grinned. Nope. Anya nodded, her gaze returning to the men. All of you at once. Biff's face turned livid, and the others looked just as insulted. You're asking for it, he roared, channeling his energy, his eyes burning with killing intent. This wasn't a job for just anyone. He threw a punch like a piston, aimed straight for Anya's face. She didn't retreat or dodge. Her hand, which looked delicate and weak, shot out and easily caught his fist. Then came a sickening crack. She had twisted his wrist, snapping the bone. As a pain scream ripped from his throat, he tried to kick her legs. Anya moved at the same time, but her kick was twice as fast. In that instant, Asher heard a sound like an eggshell shattering. A chill ran down his spine. Damn, that's way more intense than that weird ice cream so good trend. A blood-curdling, pig-like squeal echoed through the hallway. It was a sound that would make a grown man weep. She went straight for the kill shot. It wasn't intentional malice. It was just how she fought. The concepts of holding back or leaving things on good terms were foreign to her. Asher figured he might have to teach her that someday. Or maybe not. After all, she was the Dragon's Den's mole, far more dangerous than Cassie Lee. Within minutes, the intense pain caused the bodyguard to black out and collapse. How dare you? Ox's face contorted in fury. He knew what his men were capable of, and this one hadn't even lasted 5 minutes against her. It was absurd. Throwing all pride to the wind, Ox yelled, "Everyone get her!" The 5 remaining bodyguards charged in unison, proving the old adage, if a man has no shame, he's invincible. Ox himself hung back, watching like a coiled viper, waiting for an opening. The moment Anya showed a single weakness, he would strike. In the ensuing chaos, Anya moved like a sleek panther, weaving through the men with effortless grace. Because of her ancient martial arts training, even a simple punch from her carried several times their force. To put it bluntly, it was a one-sided slaughter. One by one, the bodyguards fell. Ox couldn't wait any longer. If he did, there'd be no one left. He charged. Mr. Vance, it's so scary. I'm so nervous. Jasmine squeaked, instinctively pressing herself closer to Asher, her chest heaving with a mix of fear and confusion. 10 minutes ago, she would have never believed Anya was capable of this. But now, the woman she dismissed as a bronze leaguer was clearly a grandmaster. She was single-handedly taking down 7 huge bodyguards without breaking a sweat. Asher wasn't sure if Jasmine was intentionally trying to get close, but he wasn't the type to sweat the details. Don't worry, he said, patting her arm reassuringly. We're far enough away. We won't get hurt. The commotion was so loud that executives and managers from nearby offices started poking their heads out, their faces a mask of bewilderment. By the time they emerged, Anya's job interview was over. The hallway walls were pockmarked with craters of various sizes. To call it a wreck was an understatement. The 7 bodyguards lay on the floor, their faces twisted in agony. God only knew the pain they were enduring. Their futures as men were now uncertain. What happened? What's going on? Did I miss something? Mr. Vance, are you all right? Should we call the police? I just saw that woman beating people up. Someone call security. The scene descended into chaos. Asher looked at Anya and smiled. Starting today, you're my personal bodyguard. I'll pay you $1 million a year. Go away to my office. If you're not satisfied with the terms, we can renegotiate. $1 million was nothing to Asher. The 7 men on the floor cost him half that annually. It was a high-risk job, after all. One day they might run into some desperate kidnappers and end up in a body bag. A high salary was standard. Anya nodded and walked into the general manager's office. Her gait was unique. Her long, pale legs moved in a distinctive pattern, one foot crossing over the other as if she were walking on a line, like a cat. Her steps were so light they were almost silent. Asher watched her go, a flicker of appreciation in his eyes. He had to admit, watching Anya's catwalk was a feast for the eyes. He turned his attention to Jasmine. Call the hospital right now. Get a few ambulances over here to take them away. All medical expenses will be covered by the Vance family. Also, contact a construction crew and have them come over to repair all the damage here. Jasmine nodded, pulling out her phone to call for medical assistance. Asher then walked over to the crowd of curious onlookers. Everyone, please return to your offices, he said with a calm smile. Everything is fine here. I was just auditioning a new personal bodyguard, and things got a little loud during her sparring session with the veterans. It's all over now. The crowd exchanged bewildered glances, looking from Asher to the devastated hallway. A little loud? It looked like she'd nearly demolished the entire executive floor. There were a dozen holes punched through the walls. This was a little loud? More like an earthquake. But since Asher himself said it was fine, they dispersed and went back to their offices. Asher nodded, satisfied. He was in an excellent mood. First, he had Cassie Lee coming over to be his mole, and now he had his personal bodyguard, Anya Ivanova, here to be a spy, ready to turn on him at a moment's notice. The crouching dragon and phoenix fledgling were finally assembled. The protagonist Leo Flynn's grand scheme was falling into place. With this setup, if the plot didn't manage to kill him off, it would be a cosmic injustice. But that was a problem for another day. Asher. Just as he was about to head back to his office, a familiar voice called his name. It was laced with anxiety and concern. He didn't even have to guess who it was. What are you doing here? Asher asked, turning around to see Scarlett Jo standing behind him. Her brow was furrowed with worry, and her crimson lips were slightly parted as if she was catching her breath. A few beads of sweat trickled down her cheek. The noise upstairs was insane. I came up to see what was happening, Scarlett replied simply. She immediately cut to her most pressing concern. What's going on here? Why are all your bodyguards on the floor? Her worry was justified. What if the protagonist, Leo Flynn, had lost his mind and decided to go for a scorched earth, mutually assured destruction plan? Scarlett was genuinely afraid that Asher could be killed. Asher smiled. Just hired a new bodyguard. This was her tryout. Oh, Scarlett said, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. Man or woman? Asher froze. She-devil, don't push it, he thought. We're not even married yet, and you're already trying to manage my private life? You think I'm going to be whipped? Not a chance. A woman, he said, then quickly tried to usher her away. I've arranged for everything to be cleaned up here, so it's all good. You can go back now. He felt a pang of guilt. Anya was still in his office, and he hadn't finished reeling her in. If the she-devil came in and messed things up, what if his precious phoenix fledgling flew away? Who could he complain to then? But Scarlett didn't leave. As Asher opened his office door, she strode past him on her long legs, entering first. Hey, get out of here, Asher said, sensing trouble. He moved to block her, but she was too fast. In an instant, she came face to face with Anya. As Anya observed Scarlett, Scarlett was sizing her up as well. High-level women often duel with their eyes. The silent battles were far more terrifying than the ones with words. The three of them stood there, staring at each other. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Finally, Anya broke the silence. Boss, do you want me to get rid of her? Scarlett's beautiful eyes narrowed, a half-smile playing on her lips as she looked at Asher. Hiding a new girl in your office? She purred. Are you really going to let her throw me out? The female protagonist meeting the female villain. It should have been an electrifying moment, but Asher felt anything but excited. I'm not. I didn't. This isn't me hiding a new girl. It's me hiding a goddamn assassin. He screamed internally. She-devil, you have no idea who you're dealing with. Standing in front of you is the world's #1 killer. I'm fine with dying, but you should probably stop poking the bear. Asher decided he had to separate them, at least for now. With the protagonist and the villain in the same room, his brilliant plan to recruit this talent was about to go up in flames. Ahem, just calm down. I have important business to discuss with Ms. Ivanova, Asher said vaguely. She-devil, let's talk this out. Be a good girl and go back to your office, he pleaded internally. You can't handle the world's #1 assassin. Let me take care of this. The world's #1 assassin? Scarlett's eyes widened slightly. Asher would dare keep someone that dangerous around? At the same time, Anya's composure wavered. He hadn't even started his recruitment pitch, and he'd already laid all her cards on the table. How was she supposed to play this hand? In that moment, Anya was certain that what Asher's thoughts said about a past life was true. What business could you possibly have that I can't know about? Scarlett pressed. If you want to add her to your collection, I really don't mind, you know. She smiled, her tone deceptively light as she found a chair and sat down, crossing her legs. My collection of what? Baseball cards? She's the protagonist. Don't you get it? She's Leo Flynn's woman, one of the heroines from the book. There's no way a villain like me could ever collect her. Not unless the sky falls. Jesus himself could show up and it wouldn't happen. Boss, I can make her leave, Anya offered, a ripple of excitement disturbing the calm surface of her thoughts. She had been cool and collected her whole life, but this was too much. Getting Scarlett out of the room was essential. There were so many more secrets hidden within Asher that she needed to uncover. One of the heroines? Scarlett's eyes lit up with understanding. She reassessed the woman walking toward her. Damn it, another woman who can hear his thoughts. Just as Anya was about to act, Asher yelled, "Stop." Scarlett let out a quiet breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The sense of pressure from Anya was overwhelming. In the end, brute force was a massive disadvantage. In a boardroom battle, Scarlett could crush her with ease. But this was the wrong arena. Ms. Ivanova, why don't you come over and fill out the employment contract, Asher said, beckoning her over. He pulled a pre-prepared contract from his drawer. Money was meaningless to Anya, but formalities had to be observed. Plus, the contract served another crucial purpose. It would prevent his phoenix fledgling from suddenly flying away. It was a flimsy chain, but better than nothing. Anya walked over and took the contract, her eyes skimming the details. She then picked up a pen from the desk to sign. The tip of the pen touched the paper, but she paused. Asher's face tensed. Are you not satisfied with my offer? He asked nervously. Anya first nodded, then shook her head. As Asher watched, bewildered, she spoke. The pay is fine, but I have another condition. The tension in Asher's shoulders immediately eased. He smiled. Name it. I'm very satisfied with your skills. As long as you agree to stay, I'll accept any condition you propose, as long as it's within my power. He was confident he could win her over. Money, a house, a car, whatever she wanted he could provide. Problems that could be solved with money weren't really problems. Anya looked at him and stated her demand. Since I'm accepting this job, from this moment on, I will be responsible for you around the clock. 24/7, no blind spots. She added, of course, private matters like showering and using the restroom are your own business. Protection? Or surveillance? He thought. She's a total dragon queen. This means I can take her straight back to the manor. The mysterious murder at the Vance estate. Why did the heir to the Vance Corporation die a tragic death at home? Who was the killer? What was her motive? Welcome to Cribs, Assassin's Edition. My very own custom-made death plot. Asher was about to agree enthusiastically when the she-devil's voice cut in. Are you a bodyguard or a surveillance camera? Scarlett's question was a stiletto heel, sharp and pointed. She wasn't giving Anya an inch. Seeing the two women were about to clash again, Asher stepped in to mediate. Having a bodyguard as capable as Ms. Ivanova willing to protect me puts my mind at ease. I agree to all your conditions. Anya was slightly taken aback. She hadn't expected him to agree so readily. Interesting. Very interesting. Scarlett could no longer sit still. She stood up. Asher, your new bodyguard is quite fascinating. You wouldn't mind if I borrowed her for a moment, would you? Oh, hell no, don't do it. You really can't beat her, he thought, instinctively about to refuse. But then his eyes met hers. They stared at each other for a long moment. Fine, he conceded. Just in case, he turned to Anya and said sternly, no matter what she says or does, you are not to harm her. Anya nodded in understanding. Seeing her promise, Asher felt a wave of relief. Once Anya gave her word, she would move heaven and earth to keep it. He left the office, closing the door behind him. The atmosphere was silent for a moment before Scarlett spoke. Whatever he's paying you, I'll give you 10 times more. Take the money and leave him. Go back to where you came from. The general manager's office was soundproof. No one could hear them. Anya shook her head. Ms. Joe, it's not about the money. She had already looked up Scarlett's file before coming here. In fact, she had reviewed the files of everyone close to Asher. Scarlett's beautiful eyes stared directly at the equally stunning woman before her. "You can hear Asher's thoughts, can't you?" she stated flatly. A massive wave crashed through Anya's mind. She froze for a second, then feigned ignorance, her voice just as calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." Scarlett's lips curved into a slight smile. "Not admitting it? Fine. I'll keep talking until you do. The world's #1 assassin, sent by Leo Flynn, from that organization of yours. The Dragon's Den, I believe it's called." Anya's eyes gradually turned dangerous. But for the man she loved, Scarlett was fearless. She continued to expose Anya's secrets, all gleaned from Asher's thoughts. She paused for a beat, her gaze never wavering from the world's most lethal woman. $100 million. Leave my man. Leave my man. Interesting. So I'm not the only one who can hear his thoughts, Anya said, a rare smile gracing her lips. Her eyes held the look of someone who had just discovered a fascinating new toy. "Aren't you afraid that I'll take your money and report back to Leo Flynn?" Scarlett laughed, her tone dismissive. "Be my guest. I'm giving you more money. Leave." Anya's expression returned to its usual placid state. "Ms. Joe, money can't buy you everything." Her intentions were clear. She wasn't leaving. She had just stumbled upon something truly entertaining. How could she possibly walk away now? There were clearly more deep, dark secrets surrounding Asher, and she was determined to uncover every single one. Scarlett took a deep breath, her eyes cold. "Fine, but if you dare to hurt him, I will make you regret the day you were born." There was nothing more to say. Scarlett realized further conversation was pointless. So what if she was the world's #1 assassin? If she touched what was hers, Scarlett would tear her apart. Anya remained completely unfazed. She had been in far more dangerous situations and had always walked away unscathed. Scarlett's threats were empty. The office door opened with a soft click. Scarlett glanced down the hallway, but Asher was nowhere in sight. She turned and walked away, her heels echoing in the empty corridor. A while later, Asher emerged from the vacant office next door. It was technically his as well. Anya hurting Scarlett? Not a chance. The Dragon Queen had her own code of honor. Her word was her bond. Asher knew her too well to worry. He walked back into his office. Anya handed him the signed contract. "Good girl," he thought, happily taking it. "You officially start today." Anya nodded, then walked over to stand behind his large leather chair, her hands crossed in front of her. She had the distinct air of a henchman in a Hong Kong gangster movie, standing guard over the big boss. At first, Asher found it novel. An hour later, he was going numb. "Ahem, Ms. Ivanova, if you get tired of standing, feel free to find a place to sit," he suggested. Anya's eyes opened slightly. "Thank you for your concern, boss, but I'm not tired." In that single hour, Anya's entire worldview had been shattered, rebuilt, and then shattered again into dust. The reason was simple. Asher's thoughts revealed everything. This man knew her entire personality, her history, her deepest secrets. But that wasn't the critical part. The critical part was that the real world she lived in was nothing but a novel. And not only that, she was destined to end up with the Dragon King, Leo Flynn. When she heard that part, Anya had wanted to kick Asher's chair out from under him. She would die before she developed any feelings for that womanizing pig, Leo Flynn. "If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all." "Oh," Asher muttered, rubbing his nose. "Well, what's coming is coming. I'll have to get used to it eventually. If you can't fight it, might as well enjoy it." After some self-reassurance, his mood brightened again. 2 more hours passed. Asher was on the verge of a mental breakdown. "Ms. Ivanova, it's almost the end of the day. You've been a very diligent bodyguard. You've done a great job, and I hope you never do it again." "Ahem. I mean, you don't have to stand behind me. Just find a seat, play on your phone, watch a show. Just, for the love of God, don't stand behind me anymore." Anya opened her beautiful eyes and nodded. "All right, boss. And stop with the boss thing, it's so formal. I have a name, you could just call me Asher." The title felt weird. It made him sound like the actual final boss of the story. The final boss was the she-devil. Anya blinked. "All right, Bo, Asher." Asher smiled. "Perfect. That was more like it." Then his smile froze. Anya had just said something that sent a jolt through him. "Ms. Ivanova is also too formal. You can call me Anya." Wait, wasn't she a year or 2 older than him? Was she trying to be cute? This wasn't the cold-blooded, emotionless female assassin he'd signed up for. He failed to notice the fleeting glint of mischief in her eyes. "Oh, okay, I'll call you Anya from now on." Anya's voice was firm. "Call me Anya. Game over, man. It's game over. This killer isn't so cold after all." The reference to Lyon, The professional echoed in his mind. Asher's expression was complicated. Right, Anya, he said with difficulty. Do you want to get lunch with me? Since she was sticking to him like glue anyway, he might as well invite her. Anya shook her head. Sorry, I have something to do this afternoon. I'll need to take a half day off. Something to do? More like a million things to do, he thought, his eyes lighting up. I get it. I totally get it. You're going to report to your real boss, right? You should have just said so. I wouldn't have minded, you know. Time is of the essence. Hurry up and go. Asher grinned. Okay, no problem. Is an afternoon enough? If not, a week. Crack. Anya's hand shot out in a blur. A perfect knife hand strike that slammed onto the mahogany desk right in front of his lap. The sheer force of the blow split the solid wood in two. His computer, papers, and everything else crashed to the floor. Asher and little Asher both jumped in terror. The age-old question of which one to save in a crisis suddenly felt very real. Asher decided he wanted to save both, but if he had to choose, he'd sacrifice the big one. Just kill me now. Onion. What was that for? He stammered, terrified. Was a dragon queen going off script? Was she just going to end it now? This was insane. As his mind raced, Anya calmly held up her pale hand. There was a mosquito in the office, she said flatly. I got rid of it for you. Asher looked down and did, in fact, see a dead mosquito. It was smeared with blood. Since he hadn't been to the office in days, it must have been Jasmine's. That little pest deserved it, sucking all that blood. He felt a sense of vindication, even as his heart bled for his desk. Wow, Anya, great job. But in the future, maybe don't do that. We have bug zappers. And my computer had hundreds of gigabytes of important files and important informational websites on it. It's not worth all this just for one mosquito. Anya almost believed his pathetic excuse. Important files, my ass. The lies men tell. All right, should I go now? Asher took a deep breath, feeling as if he'd aged 10 years. He wanted to say stay, but the word that came out was, go, just go. He crouched down to check on his old friend, the computer, hoping the hard drive wasn't damaged. The monitor was completely shattered, useless. He'd have to get a new one, as long as the tower was okay. Once outside the office, Anya pulled out her phone and sent a text to Cassie Lee, then headed for the elevator. They met at an old-school Sichuan place in Queens. Anna, you're here, Cassie Lee said with a cheerful grin. You should have told me you were coming sooner. Lunch is on me today. Don't even think about arguing. The table was already covered with a dazzling array of delicious dishes. Who would have thought the world's #1 assassin had a soft spot for home-style cooking? Anya glanced at Cassie, noticing the faint hickeys still visible on her neck. Living a good life, I see. Cassie froze, then fumbled in her purse for a compact mirror. She must have been in a rush when she left. Haha. Well, you know, she laughed, then rummaged through her bag again, pulling out a makeup wipe and some remover. She pressed the cool wipe to her neck, erasing the evidence. After a final check in the mirror, she put everything away. So, since it's your first time in New York, is there anywhere special you want to go? I can take the afternoon off and be your tour guide. The Dragon's Den mission was one thing, but having fun was another. These past few days, Cassie had nearly forgotten all about her real job. Anya spooned a small portion of mapo tofu into her mouth. The spicy, numbing flavor was decent. When did you betray the Dragon's Den? She asked coolly. The question hit Cassie like a physical blow. Her body went rigid. Under the table, her hand slipped silently into her purse, her movements careful and precise. I wouldn't try any funny business in front of me. The consequences would be severe, Anya said, gently blowing on another spoonful of tofu before eating it. The glossy oil on her lips made them shine, an impossibly alluring sight. She was a rose armed with deadly thorns, but one that men and women alike would die to kiss. A chill ran down Cassie's spine. A fine sheen of sweat broke out on her forehead. She placed both hands on the table where Anya could see them. Anna, are you here to clean house? She asked, her voice trembling. Fighting Anya was a fool's errand. Cassie knew she couldn't win, let alone escape. Anya's tracking skills were legendary. Death would be slow and painful. Anya ignored her, picking up a small porcelain bowl and sipping the rich, steaming pork bone broth. The warm liquid went down smoothly, and she closed her eyes in momentary bliss. Cassie was about to lose her mind. This feeling, waiting for a death sentence, was unbearable. They were in a private room with no windows. The only exit was the door behind Anya. Cassie's stomach churned with regret. She never should have suggested this place. It was a careless mistake. Her mind raced, her hands flat on the table. If Anya confirmed she was here to take her in, Cassie was prepared to flip the table and make a run for it. Anything was better than sitting here waiting to die. No, Anya said, shaking her head slightly. choosing to ignore Cassie's subtle movements. Phew! Cassie let out a breath of relief, her chest rising and falling. A smile of pure, unadulterated survival spread across her beautiful face. Then, Anya asked a question that completely baffled her. What do you think of Asher Vance? He's a great guy, the most conscientious boss ever. Cassie had no idea what Anya was getting at, so she gave a safe, standard answer. He's the worst. A useless, spoiled playboy from the Vance family. Her eyes remained fixed on Anya, searching for any change in her expression. But Anya's face was a placid mask. She simply nodded and took a bite of rice. I'll give you one last chance. Say what you're really thinking. Overwhelmed by a powerful survival instinct, Cassie spilled the truth. Asher is a good boss. He's a really good person. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to be his enemy. Anya blinked, her glossy lips parting. You've gotten quite a few benefits from him. Cassie gave a sheepish smile and shrugged. Not much, just a little. Anya looked straight at her and laid her cards on the table. Besides you, is there anyone else who can hear Asher's thoughts? Based on her own interactions with Asher and Cassie's recent strange behavior, Anya had pieced most of it together. Now it was time for confirmation. Well, what thoughts? Anna, you can hear them too? Cassie started to feign ignorance, but then the realization hit her, and her heart soared with joy. This is amazing. She wasn't fighting this battle alone. Anya neither confirmed nor denied it. She simply asked another question. What do you know about the world we're living in? Cassie had been around Asher longer. There was no way she didn't know something was off. Cassie suppressed the storm of emotions inside her. Anna, I may not know everything, but I'm willing to tell you everything I do know. I'll hold nothing back. A similar conversation was taking place at a noodle bar in the East Village. So that's the situation, Scarlett said, her voice laced with frustration. I can't stop it. The only thing we can do is prepare for her being in the house. Scarlett, we'll just have to roll with the punches, right? Chloe said, offering an optimistic smile. No need to borrow trouble. She knew it. She knew Scarlett asking her to lunch meant something big was up, and it was. Anya Ivanova was not only her brother's bodyguard, but his live-in bodyguard. She was moving into their house tonight. To that, Chloe had only one reaction. She wholeheartedly approved. She welcomed it with open arms. If she had enough time to get close to Anya, she was confident she could convince her to defect from the dragon's den. After all, with Anya's skills, she could go anywhere in the world. Few people could stop her. And if persuasion didn't work, Chloe had an ace up her sleeve. Victor Stone. Of course, to get Victor's complete loyalty, she still needed to find his family in Newark. Scarlett frowned, tilting her head. Chloe, you don't seem very worried about your brother's safety. I know you two have your issues, but even if you're not worried about him, you should be worried about your own safety and your family's. Chloe's smile faded, replaced by a solemn expression. Don't worry, Scarlett. I won't let that assassin harm my family. That's my promise to you and to them. Hearing this, Scarlett relaxed and picked up her chopsticks. All right, let's eat first. Chloe had martial arts training. She could handle herself to some extent. And for now, Anya didn't seem to have any immediate plans to act. It was a small mercy. Okay, Chloe chirped, though her bright, pure eyes were darting back and forth, her mind clearly working on something. The two women ate, each lost in their own thoughts. Meanwhile, as the afternoon wore on, Asher decided not to go back to the office at all. He sent a text to Jasmine, telling her to let Anya know she could take the day to pack her things and that she should move into the manor tomorrow evening. In the meantime, she had full access to his office, the same privileges as Jasmine. Asher congratulated himself on his brilliant strategy. The benefits were numerous. First, if Anya wanted to steal any business plans, she could just grab them from his desk. He didn't mind if she looked through his computer, either. He had already moved all his important study materials and files. All that was left were useless multi-billion-dollar corporate strategies and future business development plans. Cassie Lee's performance as a mole had been disappointing. It felt like ages, and he still hadn't heard any news about disastrous corporate decisions causing massive financial losses. Second, and most importantly, he couldn't stand being in the office anymore. With Anya constantly standing behind him, he felt completely exposed, even when her eyes were closed. It was as if she could see right through him. Driving around aimlessly was a far better alternative. He spent the rest of the day cruising in his sports car, only heading back to the manor as evening fell. Ever since Chloe had come home, Asher had been eating out, only returning late at night. But this evening, his mother, Eleanor Ting Vance, had sent him several texts and even called him, insisting he come home for dinner. She had specially made a few of his favorite dishes. He couldn't defy a direct order from the matriarch. So, He reluctantly agreed. Why should he be the one to have to adjust just because Chloe was back? He felt like he was getting the short end of the stick. Tonight, he was going to make up for it. Nothing from a fancy restaurant could compare to his mom's cooking. Not even the master-level culinary skills the system had given him. Okay, that was all bullshit. The truth was he was just too lazy to cook for himself. There was no unwritten rule that said people who are good at cooking had to cook for themselves all the time. At the Vance Manor, the front door swung open. Smells like it's ready. Standing in the foyer, Asher could already smell the aroma wafting from the dining room. Even more impressive, his master-level skills allowed him to identify the exact dishes just from the scent. Damn, that smells amazing. Oh yeah, I can feel it. All of it. He quickly swapped his shoes for slippers and headed inside. The house was lively. Asher's pace slowed, and a frown creased his brow. We have guests. It was a female voice, both unfamiliar and yet strangely familiar. He had heard it just this afternoon. Chloe, where's your brother? That deadbeat kid promised me he'd be home for dinner tonight, and there's still no sign of him, Eleanor grumbled. Chloe was just as annoyed, though she tried not to show it. Mom, you're asking me? How should I know? It's better if that jerk doesn't come back anyway. Eleanor sighed. When are you two ever going to make up? She then turned to the stunningly beautiful woman sitting with them. Anya, I'm so sorry you have to see this. This is just how our family is. You guys go ahead and eat. I'll give him a call. Lawrence Vance scowled. Why call him? The boy has hands and feet. He's not going to starve. It was a classic case of having a son and forgetting your husband. Eleanor shot her pouting husband a look and picked up her phone from the table, about to head into the hallway to make the call. Suddenly, Anya looked toward the hallway. Mrs. Vance, Asher's back. He is, Eleanor said, surprised. Almost simultaneously, everyone turned to look in the direction Anya was facing. Ha! Morning, Mom, Asher said, walking out with an awkward grin. What the hell? This was beyond ridiculous. How did the Dragon Queen infiltrate the Vance Manor? Who gave her the authorization? Asher's heart went cold. It must have been Jasmine. She must have cracked under Anya's pressure and spilled everything, including his home address. He was harboring a traitor. That secretary was getting too bold. He'd have to teach her a lesson at the office tomorrow. Morning? Do you know what time it is? Hurry up and get over here to eat. Eleanor said, half angry, half amused. Asher nodded. Whatever was coming, he couldn't avoid it. He wasn't afraid for himself, but he couldn't let his family get caught in the crossfire. The dining table was oval. Lawrence, Eleanor, and Chloe sat on one side. Asher and Anya sat on the other, directly facing them. The scene was so perfect, he didn't feel moved at all. He didn't dare move. Anya, our house is pretty big and kind of remote. How did you find it? He had to confirm if his secretary was the mole. If she was, her job was on the line tomorrow. I invited her, you idiot, Chloe said, rolling her eyes at him. Damn it, Chloe. Not cool. Do you have any idea who you just brought home? She's the goddamn Dragon Queen. The kind of person who blows up her own mother without a second thought. When she starts her killing spree, it won't just be Mom and Dad. You won't get away either. You are so naive. Asher sucked in a sharp breath. Asher, Anya said, looking at him. He was completely baffled. Yeah? What's up? Anya raised her pale hand and waved it in the air. It seems your house has mosquitoes, too. Oh shit. Are you serious? Don't you come over here. Asher forced a smile. And no, I don't think so. Our house is very clean. In that moment, it all clicked. This was what it took to be a female protagonist. His sister, the Dragon Queen. They were all the same. They were teaming up to take him down ahead of schedule. Chloe couldn't stand her brother's persecution complex any longer. Anna, stop scaring him. My brother is a coward. If you give him a heart attack, we'll have to drag him to the hospital, and that's just a huge hassle. Asher's eyelid twitched. You little brat, whose side are you on? Call me a coward? I'm not even afraid of death. You think I'm afraid of her? I know you two are in this together. You're both protagonists favored by fate. No wonder you hit it off. You want to kill me off early, so you can report back to the main character. I get it. I get it all. Anna, Chloe said, a pair of cute fangs showing as she smiled. There's a mosquito on my brother's face. Could you do me a little favor? Adorable and absolutely infuriating. Before Asher, the victim, could even say anything, Anya replied, my pleasure. Don't be silly. There was no way Chloe would actually let Anya hurt Asher. Even if Anya wanted to, Chloe wouldn't allow it. It was at most a threat. It was his own fault for constantly associating her with Leo Flynn in his head. She didn't even like Leo Flynn, okay? Over the course of the meal, Asher figured out how Anya had ended up at the manor. The root of it all was Chloe. She had gone to his office in the afternoon to recruit Anya, then had cleared it with their parents, singing Anya's praises. She was a master of masters, the ultimate guardian who would ensure the Vance family's safety. Lawrence and Eleanor, without a second thought, had believed Chloe's wild tale, and that led to this dinner. With Chloe actively guiding the conversation, Anya quickly integrated into the family. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious. Except for Asher, of course. But what was coming was coming. If Anya didn't come today, she would come tomorrow. Besides, the Dragon Queen's target was him, not his family. Anya operated on her own principles. She would never harm innocent people. On that point, Asher was confident. After dinner, Asher retreated to his room. Chloe led Anya to a spare room on the second floor. "Anna, you can stay here from now on," Chloe said with a smile, helping her smooth out the bedding. "See if you're missing anything, and I'll take you shopping for it tomorrow." Anya looked at her, confused. "You know my intentions for being here aren't pure. Why are you being so nice to me?" Chloe met her gaze without flinching, a confident smile on her face. "Because we're the same kind of people. The same kind. Novel protagonists," Chloe said with a casual shrug. Anya pondered this for a moment, then asked uncertainly, "So you're in love with Leo Flynn?" During their lunch, Cassie had explained the basics of how novels worked. The general idea was that the female protagonist develops a crush on the male protagonist, falls in love with him, and becomes inseparable. If that wasn't the reason, Anya couldn't think of any other explanation for why Chloe was trying to win her over. Instantly, the smile vanished from Chloe's face, replaced by a dark expression brimming with murderous intent. "Love him? I wish I could kill him right now." Anya glanced at her, a little bewildered. Then, the petite girl clenched her small, pale fists. "Anna, let me show you something cool." Anya frowned. In the next instant, Chloe rushed toward her, her body already in an attack stance. The moves were incredibly familiar. The two women exchanged blows. Chloe's punches and kicks carried no killing intent, so Anya simply parried her attacks. Otherwise, the moment Chloe had struck, the outcome would have been the same as the bodyguards that morning: a one-way trip to the hospital. Anya's pupils dilated slightly. Weren't those the moves from her own ancient martial arts discipline? How did Chloe know them? They were a secret passed down through her lineage. It made no sense. After a few moments, having achieved her goal, Chloe pulled back. "Anna, stop, stop. No more fighting." Anya's fist halted just a fraction of an inch from Chloe's face. Chloe's heart pounded in her chest. The last thing she wanted was to walk around with a bandage on her nose. "You have successfully piqued my interest," Anya said, her earlier calm completely gone. Her mind was reeling with shock. "Answer my questions. Could there be two versions of her martial arts?" No, the moves were identical. The only difference was that Chloe's version was all form and no substance. It lacked the internal power to back it up. It was like putting a tractor engine in a sports car. All show, no go. The effect was better than expected. Chloe let out a laugh. "Anna, don't be shocked by what I'm about to tell you. The truth is, I'm a reincarnator. We met in our previous life, and we were actually on good terms." "That's right." Chloe laid her cards on the table. This was a secret she would share only with Anya. She had realized that if you want a horse to run, you have to feed it. Chloe knew Anya wasn't a gossip. Besides, to win Anya over, she had to offer something substantial. Otherwise, Anya wouldn't even give her the time of day. Chloe gave Anya a rough summary of her past life. Whether Anya believed her was up to her. Throughout her story, Chloe intentionally omitted the part about Anya falling in love with Asher. Feelings were a delicate thing. They grew over time. You could deny them all you want, but the truest test was when you lost that person. That's when you would descend into madness, turmoil, and grief. It was midnight. Asher rubbed his tired eyes, grabbed his pajamas, and headed for the bathroom. When he reached the door, he saw the light was on. "Someone still up at this hour?" he muttered, surprised. He was about to turn around and use the downstairs bathroom when the door swung open. Standing there, wreathed in steam, was Anya. Her long hair was wet, and her beautiful face was flushed from the heat of the shower. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but Asher wasn't particularly interested in this deadly rose. "All done. Then I'm going in," Asher said with a smile. He wasn't about to pretend he was some kind of saint. The door was open, so why make things difficult for himself by going all the way downstairs? That was just pointless. Anya hummed. She then turned and bent over, her loose pajamas gaping to reveal an impressive view as she rummaged through the laundry hamper. To Asher's complete bewilderment, she pulled out a bundle of cloth and pressed it into his hands. It was still warm, soft, and pleasant to the touch. "Wash this for me," she said, then walked away. Asher's eyelid twitched. "Hey, Anya, if you have laundry, just throw it in the washing machine. Hand washing is cleaner," she called back over her shoulder, her face calm. Asher was speechless. He wasn't a maid. She could have asked Maria for help. It seemed there was a lot he needed to explain to the Dragon Queen tomorrow. Chloe was a totally unreliable guide. He was about to say something else, but Anya had already disappeared down the hall. Family status. -1. This is an impossible living situation. Asher fumed. But then again, maybe this was a good thing. Emitt's death was just around the corner. Maybe I should set off some fireworks tomorrow to celebrate. A happy grin spread across his face. He unconsciously fiddled with the clothes Anya had given him. A bad feeling crept over him. He unfolded the bundle and froze. It was a pair of pure cotton panties with a little bear print on them. This was beyond ridiculous. Who would believe that the world's #1 assassin wore something like this? Asher knew Anya had a dorky side, but this was completely off script. She could have asked Chloe to wash them. Why ask him, a grown man? Wash my ass. Asher seethed, tossing the garment aside. Was this some kind of test for a villain? What villain couldn't resist a test like this? So what if she was the #1 assassin? Did that give her the right to order him around? He spat mentally. Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. Asher, I forgot to tell you. If you can't resist doing something strange with them, remember to wash them properly afterward. With warm water. Asher jumped, his heart skipping a beat. Were you born in a toilet? What's with scaring people in the middle of the night? Ahem. You came back just to tell me that? He asked, looking at her in disbelief. Anya's face was calm. She tilted her head. Was there something else? Asher felt a mouthful of blood rise in his throat. He swallowed it back down and glared at her. Wash them yourself. Are you done? Why, yes, I'm done. Oh. Anya turned and left, leaving Asher sputtering in the bathroom. Damn it all. He had been right. Chloe had invited a queen home, not a bodyguard. This was anarchy. He was a villain, not a servant, got it? He slammed the bathroom door shut and, for good measure, locked it. Not that the door would stop the Dragon Queen's leg, honed by 2 decades of training, but it was better than nothing. As he showered, Asher considered whether he should replace all the bathroom doors in the house with reinforced steel. A cultured Dragon King was one thing, but an uncultured Dragon Queen was a whole other problem. She didn't follow logic, and she certainly didn't follow any code of honor. The plot had shifted from physical damage to magical, soul-crushing damage. A critical hit. Asher had read plenty of novels, but this ridiculous underwear washing scenario made him feel like he was the real Dragon King. No, wait. He felt like the spineless, live-in son-in-law from a trashy web novel, constantly berated by his mother-in-law and wife. They'd probably throw his daughter's panties at his face and scream, "You useless bum! How did my beautiful daughter marry a poor loser like you? Wash these, or you don't get dinner. Get out of my house." Humiliating. This was so damn humiliating. Asher finished his shower with tears in his eyes. As for the panties, not a chance. He'd die before he washed them. He'd leave them for Maria to deal with tomorrow. The steel door idea was just a passing thought. If he actually did it, he'd blow his cover. The next morning, Asher pulled Anya aside for an important 3-way conference with Maria, the housekeeper. Just then, Chloe came downstairs and saw them. Convinced Asher was up to no good, she strong-armed her way into their conversation. Asher had given her a chance to leave, but she was acting like a disobedient child. So fine. He didn't care anymore. Listen if you want. Don't blame me if your ears get dirty. Asher then solemnly instructed Maria about the laundry situation and told Anya to be more considerate and give her delicates to Maria to handle. Or they could place a dedicated hamper outside the bathroom where she could put her clothes after showering, and Maria would collect them the next day. Maria and Anya thought this was perfectly reasonable. Asher thought it was a minor issue. Only Chloe turned beet red, her face contorting in rage as she lunged at Asher, determined to give him a beating. And then there was no and then. When it came to making a quick getaway, Asher was a pro. He skipped breakfast and bolted, leaving the house in a cloud of dust. Today was special. He didn't have time for his 4-wheeled vehicle. Instead, he hopped on his beloved Ducati motorcycle. There was never traffic on a bike. He ignored Chloe's screams as she chased after him. Asher, you'd better not come home tonight. If you do, you're dead. Seeing she couldn't catch up, she stomped her foot in a fit of powerless rage, her pretty face flushed with anger. Just then, Anya walked out. Do you want me to teach him a lesson for you? Huh? Are you kidding me? Anna, are you sure you wouldn't accidentally kill my brother? Chloe's head shook back and forth, and she forced a smile. No, that's okay. Hey, Anna, you don't have to go to the office today. Let me take you shopping for some clothes. Okay. Anya nodded without refusing. The pajamas she had worn last night were Eleanor's. She had wanted to borrow Chloe's, but had discovered that the dimensions were significantly different in terms of height and in other areas.